Hey everybody, welcome back to The Beard and the Bald. I am Paul Shirey, the Beard, joined by my compatriot, the Bald, Christopher Bumbray.
Hello everyone.
Hello, Chris.
How are you today?
I'm wonderful. I'm good. This week, we have another special guest, so we are spoiling you guys. This week we have one of my oldest friends and a great film critic, teacher, nerd, geek, all those wonderful things, Mr. Zaki Hasan. Zaki, how are you?
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Big Zack attack.
There you go.
Attack.
It is now two beard and bald.
Two beards. Well, Chris has a beard too, isn't that right, Chris?
A modest beard compared to yours.
A modest.
Battle of the beards.
Fairly
I
modest.
don't know, Zaki. You might win because you had a beard like long before I did.
That's true. I did.
I mean, because I didn't always have a beard. Like my college days, I pretty much shaved or just had like a 5 o'clock shadow going.
Yeah, I gave up much earlier in life than you did.
well, also I joined the army and they made me shave every fucking day. So that's kind of that's why you see like a lot of like vets, like you see like, I guess like the prototypical Vietnam vet is like long hair and a big beard because dude, shaving every day sucks.
Sure.
It just ruins you for life. You're just like, if I never have to shave again, that's one.
Yeah, fuck this. America, freedom.
When I was in college, I was like, there was no way I ever would have grown a beard. I just wouldn't have even crossed my mind.
It's weird. I see those photos of you without a beard, and it blows my mind. Kind of like how clean cut you were and stuff.
Crazy.
He was very clean cut. I can vouch for that.
Yeah, you look weird without a beard to me.
I know. I don't like the way I look without a beard. I shave it like once or twice a year, and I'm just like, I'm not even taking a picture of myself. Like, fuck this.
No, yeah, you look.
I don't want anybody to see this. I just stay in hiding until it grows back, which is usually about 5 or 6 hours.
Well, you look absolutely hideous. I mean, it's horrifying. Fucking terrifying, dude.
I know. I'm frightened.
Yeah.
I'm a scary boy.
The Bald's in a bad mood today because his fucking printer is not working. He's been trying to fix it.
Okay, so this is the third time I've said it. I'll say it again because I think everybody can relate. But I think printers, seriously, they're like they're the worst invention ever because
mankind.
It's like the biggest ruse that like technology pulls on you is because they're like, hey, how about this? Own your own printer at home where you could print whatever the fuck you want. And then you get your printer and it works that first time and you print that thing. You're like, oh my God, it works. I have a printer. And the second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh, every other fucking time you go to print something, either A, doesn't work, or you're already out of ink. Like literally the second print, out of ink. You're low on ink. You're like, I bought this thing yesterday. Are you fucking kidding? Like, I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with printers, man.
It's letting you know who's boss. That's the second time. It's like, look at me. I am the captain now.
I am the captain now. I will tell you when you can print. You cannot print. You're low on ink. I just gave you ink. I'm just low on ink. Sons of bitches. Anyways, it's been a crazy week. It's not really been a crazy week. I guess it's been a busy week. But we've had some interesting news come down the pipe this week. Nothing too earth-shattering. I'm still waiting for like something big to drop. I guess that's just a cycle of news, but it's been like pretty consistent. One thing we did have this week that I put out, that we always try to put out just prior to the Oscars, is the Golden Schmoes, which is the JoBlo movie awards, which is completely run by you guys, by the readers. You guys nominate the nominees and you guys choose the winners. So to me, it's always a good picture into like what the fans are really thinking and what they really want. Or rather, at least the small, well, not too small, but the group of JoBlo readers, what they really think.
Yeah.
And the clear winner this year was Avengers Infinity War. It almost unseated the Dark Knight, which has the most wins of all time at 13 wins. And Infinity War, it cleaned up, man. And I was genuinely surprised. And the other thing too is like I watch the results, so it's all tracked by computer. So that's how the votes are counted and everything. And I was watching it, and a lot of the races were really, really close. And I even sent out like a tweet, and I was like, hey, if you're just ignoring this, or you haven't voted yet, you really should, because there were like some that were like literally 5 away from each other. Like I think Black Klansman
really?
was pretty close and like taking some of them out, and like Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. It won 3, but it almost won like 2 or 3 others. So it was pretty interesting just watching that go down. So
I mean, my only thing is I just feel that like Ethan Hawke should have won, dude. I think we should have fixed that,
I should have just given it to him. What's funny is, but you know what? Here's the good thing. Hey, this is a good checks and balances thing. I don't even have the ability to change them. And I was looking at it and I was like, because one of them, there was a tie and the computer chose the tie and there's nothing I could do about it. And it was for Trippiest Movie of the Year. And it was Mandy and Annihilation. And I would have given it to Mandy, but it was giving it to Annihilation.
Really?
I can't change it because that's how, I mean, it's the computer does it. There's no way for me to go in and just manually change it. So I was like, well, fuck it. Like, I guess that's what the computer chose for Trippiest Movie. The computer was like, nah, fuck that. I liked Annihilation better. But anyways, it was pretty interesting. I always enjoy seeing the results. We don't get like that many votes. I don't know. I guess people just don't really give a shit that much, but we get enough that it's, a sizable amount.
It's a race. It's a race.
Yeah. It's still an interesting thing to watch tumble down. But anyways, if you want to check those out, you can check them out on the site. So head on over there and it should be top of the charts there. You can check out the winners.
And check out My Hard Way, best movie you never saw.
It's in the top spot till the box office goes up. So
yeah.
I'll bet you sold a couple copies there. John Badham should give you like a thank you letter.
He should give me a thank you letter. I think so. I think that'd be really nice. He should
send you a printer.
He should send me a friggin' printer. It's nuts, guys. It's so annoying.
Look at Chris is still fucking with that. Put that fucking printer away. You're not gonna fix it.
I will fix it.
At the very end of the show, we're gonna hear like one thing print. So I don't want to get
some 80s music if I do that.
Well, we're always gonna have 80s music. I had 80s music last week that was very fitting, but I couldn't put it. I can't put it on the YouTube version because then it gets claimed.
Yeah.
So
interesting. I always find
use our theme.
Weird though, because you see a lot of people using these. I guess they used to not crack down on it as much as they do now, I guess.
The algorithm on YouTube changes so frequently. It's a pain in the ass. Like they just change things all the time and there's no consistency. It's a pain. So bouncing off from the Golden Schmoes, we have this other awards thing that people, I guess, care about.
I mean, should we even really talk about it though? Because by the time this goes up, everybody's going to know what they are.
And that's the thing. I don't want to spend a lot of time on it, but maybe we can throw out what we may think will be best picture, so we can see how wrong we are when this goes up.
I mean,
so if you're listening right now, you're about to find out how little the three of us know. I
mean, I'm thinking Roma is probably going to win for Best Picture and Poirot for Best Director. Best Actor, I think, is probably going to be Rami Malek. Best Actress, I think it'll be Glenn Close. Best Supporting Actor, Mahershala Ali. And Best Supporting Actress, Regina King. And honestly, the only one of those that I'm really excited about is Regina King. To be honest, I like Cuarón for Roma, but otherwise, I don't know. I'm very bored by the Oscars this year. Ethan Hawke wasn't nominated for Best Actor, so what's the point? It's so stupid.
First Horn wasn't in there.
Yeah, and I mean,
I chose for the JoBlo. We have an internal contest, and I chose Paul Schrader's First Reformed script for Best Original Screenplay to win, even if it doesn't. So
interesting.
Zaki, have
you watched it yet? By the way,
no. Zaki, what are your choices for? What do you think? How wrong are going to be this week?
Yeah, I mean, I echo you guys where I'm not particularly intrigued by anything this year. And I'll be doing the social media watch along as opposed to actually watching it on television. But
really?
if I were to guess, I would say Roma probably for Best Picture. Although I could see The Favorite as like a dark horse there. I see Spike getting his best director Oscar.
Really?
That's
Yeah, that was my choice as well. I chose
Interesting.
Spike. I think Spike Lee will get best director.
I'd be
yeah.
happy
I mean,
if he did.
Even though I don't think it's his best movie,
It
I
is.
think he'll
Well,
get it.
it's not. I don't think it's anybody's best work, though. I mean, it's not Glenn Close's best work. That's for sure. For the wife.
Glenn Close should get it for Guardians of the Galaxy.
Was she in Guardians of the Galaxy?
the first one, yeah.
Yeah, she was the
Nova
the
Prime.
Corps. Nova Prime, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was gonna say I thought that was Chris Pratt, but I mean maybe I'm wrong.
That's how good an actor Glenn Close is.
Pretty good.
All right, what else do you think, Zaggy? What else?
I mean, the rest, I'd like to see Adam Driver for supporting.
Really interesting. I liked him. I thought he was very likable, but I don't know if likable means best.
I mean, just looking at the supporting field, if I were to make a prediction, I think Richard E. Grant gets it.
Yes.
Oh, you
that's
see,
what
I'd like him to get it, but I don't think he will.
I chose Grant, even though I didn't see that movie. I will. I just haven't seen it, but I chose Grant.
I saw it finally last weekend, actually, and I really liked it.
Yeah.
Can you give
Did
me?
you see it, Zaki?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
What did you think?
I mean, he's very good in it. I mean, honestly, like in terms of the supporting actor field, they're all very good. I think Rockwell got his last year, so he's out. Marshall Ali got his 2 years ago, he's out.
I disagree with Rockwell being nominated for this one, though. To be honest, I thought
it was a kind of an SNL character.
Yeah.
To me, in my opinion. So that's why to me those two get narrowed down. So then it's Grant, Sam Elliott, Adam Driver. Of those three, I would guess that probably Richard E. Grant gets it, although Sam Elliott certainly deserves like a career Oscar.
Yeah.
You never know, though. You never know.
Yeah.
I just watched Star is Born this week, and I had very mixed feelings, and I felt like in many ways I felt things I liked were the things that people didn't like. I thought Bradley Cooper's direction was really on point.
I agree with
I really liked his direction. I really liked his performance. I was not blown away by Lady Gaga, though. She's a terrific performer and a great singer, but as an actress, she was fine. But she wasn't. I wasn't like pulled in like, oh my God, she's so riveting. I was more pulled in by Bradley Cooper, and I felt like his character had a lot more going on than hers did. Like she was just kind of like, I'm a talented singer and I love this guy. The end. But he just felt way more complex and kind of weathered and interesting. But her performance didn't really pull me in. She was good, but she's playing herself.
You didn't go Gaga, is what you're saying.
I didn't go Gaga for Gaga. But I mean, she's playing herself. And I watched there's a 30-minute featurette that I watched after I finished the movie just to kind of get a little more, because I was actually curious about it. I was curious more about, how they put it together. And throughout the feature, she's like, I'm basically playing myself. Like, this is me. And I don't know. I mean, we're just giving out Oscars for, hey, you did a good job playing yourself. Good for you. Fuck, I need an Oscar. I've been myself the whole time.
Well, when you think about it, I mean, Lady Gaga plays a character every other time. So
yeah,
now she's not playing a character, and that's the revelation.
Yeah. Yeah, so I don't really think she's the... I just wasn't blown away with her performance, and I liked Sam Elliott. He's always great. I mean, he's fucking Sam Elliott, but
that's a small role though.
Yeah, it's very small. And the main problem I had with A Star Is Born was the narrative structure. Even though I think the direction by Bradley Cooper was good, I think the way it was cut and put together, it's so jumbled. It just doesn't feel like a straight narrative, and that it just kind of bugged me. It just kind of jumped around too much.
Have you ever seen any of the other versions?
I saw the Christopherson Streisand version like forever ago, so I barely remember it.
That was the one thing I had about Bradley Cooper's performance in the movie. I liked him, but I thought that like he was doing Christopherson in the 76 version.
Totally, yes.
But see that for me is I don't have it like at the forefront of my brain, and the truth is I'm not going to revisit it. So for me, it was like I didn't have that to compare it to. So I could see that had I actually had that in my brain, but I just didn't. So. But I chose Bradley Cooper to win as Best Actor, so we'll see. And this was all just for my predictions. I don't think any of us can predict what's going to happen. And by the time you're listening to this, it's already gone down. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see how wrong we are. As you're listening to this, you guys can just make fun of us or whatever. Be like, those fuckers don't know goddamn shit. But Just calm down. I chose Black Klansman to win Best Picture. I think it could be a surprise, and it's just kind of a gamble more than anything. And I think Spike Lee for director, and actress. I think Glenn Close. The rest of the categories I really don't give a shit about.
Which was really just an okay movie, though.
The Good Wife.
The Wife, yeah.
The Good Wife, whatever.
Juliana Margulies and Glenn Close.
Yeah.
For Best Supporting Actor, I think Jussie Smollett is going to take that one.
Oh, wow, that is great acting. I mean, I will say this: if we're going to talk about acting,
Hashtag timely humor.
Yeah.
I can't wait to make that joke tonight when I'm doing my drunk roast of the Oscars. I'm planning to do that. We'll see what happens. It's going to be funny though. Whenever they announce the one of the best actor, I'm going to put up Jussie Smollett just to see what happens, because that's a joke. It's funny.
What's funny about the Jussie Smollett thing is that it's one of these things that like 10 years from now, 15 years from now, it's going to be, hey, remember that? Like, it's going to be this very specific.
A fascinating story, though. It's crazy.
It's really insane.
It's a stick pin in this particular moment that is going to be a future punchline on like VH1. I love the 2010s or whatever, you know.
The irony of the whole thing, and I really, we don't need to like deep dive into this. I don't want Chris to get upset. Just kidding, Chris. But I mean, the irony of the whole situation is that he, for whatever reason, he really did it. Yeah, it's still kind of unclear.
Yeah,
and just not smart, no matter what. But
no,
it's like for impact. I'm sure that this was not the outcome that he thought, or wanted. Not. And the irony is that the fame that he's going to get out of this is the kind you don't want. I mean, this is Munson. This is Munson fame. He's going to be a punchline, and it's like, wow, like this is like he wrote the book on how to fuck it up. Like this is just in every possible way. He fucked things up. And I listened to the Chicago PD put out their statement about the whole thing, and man, it was like a mic drop. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
Like, they did not act. They were like, dude, like what you've done, like dragging the city through the mud and then like, making light of these real situations that happened. It's like it's unforgivable.
Oh yeah. So, oh god. It is though. It is. It's absolutely unforgivable.
And if I can add one other thought, I think what it also tells us is hopefully it's a gut check moment for everybody who sort of opines on social media or what have you. Like, you don't have to chime in on every story right away. Like, it's okay to sort of sit back and just wait,
but we've kind of nurtured this culture, whether on purpose or inadvertently, of instant commentary,
right?
But what people fail to forget is that when criminal charges or when you just hear a rumor or something like that, you don't have anything really to go off of. Like it's pure speculation, and you're reacting to something that you don't have all the facts. We're not watching a sports game here. This isn't. You're not watching a football game where you're commenting moment by moment as the game is happening. That's not the way it works, but that's how people treat it. Like it's a spectator sport, but commenting on that stuff early without all the facts it's a mess. And it's a mess for anybody, regardless of, where you may fall on that particular subject. Doesn't matter. You're still commenting prematurely.
What's really funny, and I don't want to out him on the podcast, but when this happened, I was at Sundance, right? And I was having lunch with Travis Hobson.
Yep.
And I was telling him, I was like, oh, isn't that terrible, the Jussie Smollett thing? And he was kind of like, yeah. And I'm like, what do you mean? And he goes, I don't believe it, frankly.
Wow, no kidding.
And he was right. He was totally right, man.
Oh, no Travis said that?
He called it right off the top. He said he just didn't believe it. He said it seemed too perfect.
Yeah, it seemed fishy it seemed fishy to me too. I mean, I wouldn't say I had called it, but I was like, I'll tell you what got me was the whole like the MAGA hats and like this is MAGA country stuff, and I was just like,
well, and not only that, but I was talking to my girlfriend, and she's like, these people, these MAGA guys, like they watch Empire and they would recognize the guy from Empire.
Well, apparently that's
they've ever seen an episode, because apparently they screamed out "Yo Empire," like they would have ever seen an episode of Empire in their lives. It just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, it's nonsense. I mean,
It is, yeah.
I was talking to my brother who goes to school. He lives in Chicago. I mean, Zaki used to live in the Chicago area, so he knows like the area and everything. But my brother goes to school there now, and I actually was talking to him, and he was driving in there. He's like, I'm pulling into the same area where like all this stuff happened, as you know, because it's the school's right nearby. And he's like, my brother's like, you can't even buy a MAGA hat in Chicago. It's very like anti-Trump there. Like he's like, you can't even buy a MAGA hat here. He's like, there's nowhere to buy them. He's like, I don't even know where they would get them. Because it's like that's the environment there. They're very,
If you made it online, maybe. I mean, I don't know.
I mean, Trevor Noah hit Chris exactly what you said. He's like, you're telling me that he was attacked by racist, homophobe Empire fans?
Yeah, seriously.
You're really fucking up this character, boy.
What a mess.
But I mean, it was like the most
God.
stereo. It's like all this. It's like check the block stereotypes for that crime. Like there was no nuance there.
Oh no,
it's like
not at all.
We're gonna pour. I mean, he's like, we're gonna get some bleach. Oh, and get a rope. And then listen, the rope he gets is like, I don't know if you saw the rope. It's like a tiny, thin little rope. Like there was no real thought put into any of this. It was just kind of like, and get a rope. You're gonna put that around my neck and get some bleach. MAGA hats and call me this, call me that, and we'll be good. The camera's over there.
You read about the guys too. They were like his personal trainers, and they didn't want to hurt him, so they didn't really hit him very hard, and he had to like scratch himself up afterwards.
Oh my God!
Little hits.
It kills me.
I mean, and these guys. I mean, he paid them what, $3,000? Not going to go to jail for $3,000.
And apparently wrote them a check. Like,
oh my God, yeah.
I mean, what? What kind of criminal is this? Like, I mean, he's watches TV, right? Does he ever watch like? Come on,
CSI.
Watch Law and Order, yeah.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there was somebody wrote that on Twitter. Like the Law and Order episode of this is going to be lit.
Oh, it's a couple.
I would love to see a movie, like have the Farrelly brothers direct a movie of this or something. I mean, it's almost comical. I feel like at some point we will see a movie of this.
Well, now that Peter Farrelly is tackling, issues of racial unrest, I mean,
he's the last word on that.
Last word, apparently. Yeah. I think Green Book's gonna get shut out, man. I don't know. I'll be shocked. Now that I say that, who knows what? Watch Green Book won everything, and I'm just gonna look like an asshole while you're listening to this because it won everything. But
here's what I want. I want like the behind the scenes story of this, and check it out. I want it's the behind the scenes of Empire because that ties in, and Terrence Howard is played by Don Cheadle. The ultimate.
What happened? That'd be amazing.
Well, talking about other like weird guys though, Terrence Howard. I mean, I feel like that show must be like, there's some stuff going on in that show. I think
I've never seen it, but I've
not seen 1 second of that show.
What?
Zaki. It's
completely. I watched 10 minutes of the first episode.
I fired Alex Mady to bring you on here because I needed a person of color. You're supposed to have watched Empire.
Well, I didn't get the memo.
That's a deep cut for our fan.
I'm just kidding. I didn't fire Alex Mady.
No, he's suspended.
I would love for I would love for Zaki to write for us, but he doesn't need us. He's got his own thing. He's fine.
You got your own website. Let's plug your website. So what is it?
Well, you can see my various rantings at zakiscorner.com, which is ZAKIS corner. And then when I'm not with them, I'm not posting there. I'm writing for whoever will have me, basically. I mean, I'm like David Banner. I just wander from site to site, trying to, prove I didn't kill the one-armed man. I don't know. I lost the thread. I lost the metaphor. But I'm a freelance writer.
Well, shit. See there, maybe I can hire you. Who knows?
I would absolutely love that. That would be a joy and a pleasure and a deep-seated honor.
Stay away from the best movie you never saw.
I'm only hiring you as a person of color.
Hey, whatever. I knew it would pay off at some point.
Yeah, seriously.
Just kidding.
It's been a long road.
I've known. No, the truth is, I've known Zaki since my college days, and I mean,
20 years. It'll be 20
listen,
years in a few months.
and you know what's funny is like we live like in this kind of like turbulent like race and gender environment and all this stuff going on right now. But when we were friends in college and we first met, that shit never crossed my fucking mind. I never even thought like, oh, look at us white people hanging out with Zaki.
Yeah.
I never
We
even
weren't like, this is going to be a Peter Farrelly movie one day.
Dude, it never registered. Like when we made, because I mean, Zaki and I have made movies together, like acted together. And in one of my favorite movies, 3 Men and a Body 2, fucking classic. Which, let me tell you,
I was
3
gonna
Men and a
ask
Body
if it
2
was
is
porn.
absolutely hilarious, and it would never fly today if it were in theaters, but people would love it.
That
But it would
sounds-
never
it's a-
fly.
It's a porn, right? That's what it sounds like.
I mean, totally. I mean,
Even in a
absolutely.
body. Like I
No,
thought
it
you were.
is.
Yeah.
Well, it's me and Zaki and this other guy, and we just have sex with dead bodies. It's a necrophilia movie.
It
Oh, wow.
it was before its time.
Deep.
It really was. But no, it's a hilarious movie. But there's a part where I play a Mexican character and I'm hilarious, and I'm a stereotype and I wear a sombrero and it's hilarious. But people would be up in arms.
That
No
would
doubt.
not be a thing. We were whitewashing the character. Yeah. What was the character's name? It was.
Oh fuck, I can't remember. Fuck.
Remember
Listen, I watched it. I'm just gonna tell you, I watched it about a couple months ago, and I watched it with my kid, and he loved it, and I loved it. I laughed so
Well,
much.
of course, your kid loved it because you're gonna like take his PlayStation away if he doesn't.
Like, I had
Dad, it was kind of predictable, wasn't it? Hey.
I don't know. I don't know that the story merited any kind of predicting. It was pretty much just us just killing people on accident.
Yeah,
That's pretty much the story.
That was 2000. That was like 99, 2000.
So good. And we have such a wonderful performance by the co-host of your podcast, Mr. Brian Hall, another good friend who I love.
Brian Hall, a famed writer far and wide for his writing on the Disney Junior show Puppy Dog Pals.
And Bob's Burgers.
And the Bob's Burgers comic book. And by the way, Puppy Dog Pals, we should mention, is executive produced by Paul, you and our mutual friend, Sean Coyle.
Yes.
Who is also in 3 Men and a Body.
Telling you. This is what I love. Like all my friends went on to do things. They went into they did what we all did. What we we followed our passion. It's great. Everybody's in some way, shape, or form doing like what we sought out to do.
It is very cool. It's funny because I was talking to my boys the other day, and just by chance, Gary Oldman. There's like a movie with Gary Oldman in it. My kid was like, "Oh, hey, that's Commissioner Gordon," and I was like, "Yeah, it is." I was like, I met Commissioner Gordon, and I like pull out my picture of me with Gary Oldman, and then like a short while later, we were watching episode 1, and I was like, "Hey guys, I met Obi-Wan Kenobi," and it's reached the point now where my kids are like, "Yeah, we know you met so and so," and I'm like,
"That's great, Dad."
Yeah, it gets to the point with me too. I think people are just waiting whenever I meet somebody new for me to drop the name Tom Cruise. Like, whip out the phone and the photo.
Tom Cruise, Don Johnson, and at this point, Ethan Hawke.
Oh yeah, well I did meet Ethan Hawke. I did interview Ethan Hawke.
And you see, that's the way you just said that is another funny thing, is because I think all of us at this point, we forget who we talk to, because I forget. Sometimes I'll be like, oh fuck yeah, I did interview that person. Like I don't even remember, and that's not bragging. That's like really just that's a criticism of my brain, because like I'll just forget. I'll be like, oh fuck. They're like, yeah, you dumbass. Anyways.
Damn it, Dad.
Chris, I loved your Goldblum interview.
Oh, thank you. God, yeah, that was a great one too. I pulled out that selfie a couple times.
Dude, that's hashtag goals right there.
I interviewed Jeff Goldblum twice, and he is a delight. He is he wanted. I interviewed him for that awful movie Independence Day sequel.
That's why I interviewed him too
at CinemaCon, and oh my god, he was so great. And like the interview went on for like 15 minutes because he said he wanted to play JoBlo in a JoBlo movie, and just like kept going, and it was wonderful. It was
seems to enjoy his life though.
He does. He's one of those guys that's like super genuine.
Mm-hmm.
He's just awesome. He's cool. I love Jeff. I'll interview him anytime they want. I interviewed him from a Best Buy parking lot once on the phone.
Did you really?
Yeah, because like I had put in with Universal for Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom,
Yeah.
and we don't really get a lot from Universal. I don't know.
Was he actually doing interviews for that movie though? Considering he's
Yeah.
in the scene. Wow.
He was he was heavily in the promotion for that actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
Disproportionately in the promotion, I would say, given how much he's in it.
Yeah, it was weird. And like Universal, they texted me and they're like, "Hey," and they had not contacted me prior. They weren't like, "Hey, you're set for Goldblum at such and such a time," which is the way they usually do it.
Yeah, that happens sometimes. They just call you and they're like, "Hey, I got so and so on the line."
Yeah, and I was like,
Right?
I was in the process of moving like into my new house, and I was going to pick up supplies at this area. There's a bunch of stores and shit, and I was in a Best Buy parking lot. And I was like, yeah, connect me. So I'm just like sitting there in my truck in a Best Buy parking lot interviewing Jeff Goldblum.
That happened to me when I was in I was in class. I was taking a class in school, and I was supposed to interview Michael Fassbender actually. So I get a call, and then they were like, "Oh yeah, okay," but it wasn't even Michael Fassbender. It was Steve McQueen on the line for shame. It's like, "We got Steve McQueen here," and I was like, "Okay," and I had no questions. So I just literally did it from my phone. Actually, I had a great talk with him though. He's a pretty interesting guy, so we were able to talk quite a bit. I was able to kind of just pull an interview out of my ass. But yeah.
I thought you were going to be like, it was Steve McQueen from Beyond the Grave.
Yeah,
like somehow
Steve
like a
McQueen.
Twilight Zone.
From a Ouija board, we communicated. I interviewed him from the other side.
I asked him about The Great Escape. It was great.
That motorcycle. He just tell me about all of his own stunts. I do all my own stunts, you know.
And then didn't you interview Donnie Yen while he was at the airport? Like
yes, while he was going through customs. It's pretty funny. He was in the Hong Kong airport, and and people were like coming up to him and saying Donnie Yen. And he's like, yes, hello.
That's awesome.
I heard people yelling at him in Chinese, and it was like, yeah. And he's like, hello, hi. And he was actually really cool though. He was a great interview.
That was a good interview. It was like some good information.
He's a pretty.
I was surprised how chatty he was.
Oh, very chatty. I know, me too. Yeah, I was very chatty. He was really into it, actually. I liked him a lot.
So speaking of Chris, I'm going to break that printer over your head.
I've had some success, though. It seems like it's printing. Like, I've got a couple ballots done. It's not.
I feel like this. I'm going to put this in the video description. I'm going to put this in the description this week of this episode. Will Chris get his printer fixed by the end of the podcast?
Well, I've managed to print up 2 ballots, and I think that's about as good.
2 votes is all you need.
I think that's about as good as it's going to get today, unfortunately.
So speaking of other people we love, Sylvester Stallone, who seems to be, I don't know what the hell, he's just like, I think he's busier than he's been in the last like 2 decades.
I mean, you look at the box office though for Creed, you know, and it makes sense.
But I mean, he's like, he's starring in all these movies. Like, just, I mean, like, there's just no slowing this guy down.
So yeah, I was wondering though, so it's, what's it called again? What's the movie?
Samaritan. Which is described as kind of a dark superhero film or different take on the superhero genre, which I think it's interesting.
I think that's very interesting. Seeing Stallone take on like a superhero movie. I wonder, is he going to play the lead though? I hope he does.
Apparently, yeah. It says he plans to act, and he's producing through his Balboa Productions or whatever it's called. But yeah, and he's got a couple projects in the works, and he's just like, you know, he's got the new Rambo coming out. He's got this. It's like, dude's like really, he's just like packing them in, you know. I guess you know, you start to get into the later years, and you're like, you know, you start to go Clint Eastwood. Like, I'm just gonna pack them in. But yeah, the Samaritan thing sounds interesting. It's an original thing.
I'd love to see him take on a superhero movie though. That'd be interesting. I mean, in a way, I guess you could say that Rambo is a superhero, but
he very much is. I just watched First Blood Part 2 the other day in 4K on my TV. It looked amazing.
It looks really good. Yeah, the 4K.
Yeah, that old George Cosmatos, the Cosmatos genes, man. Those guys know how to shoot.
Oh, sure do.
Well, Cosmatos / Stallone, right? I mean, I think we know.
Well, that's always been the story, though. That's always been the story that apparently, you know, Cosmatos was the like Stallone ghost directed Rambo First Blood Part 2, and then he also ghost directed Tombstone. Well, Kurt Russell ghost directed Tombstone.
Well, Cobra was Cosmatos.
Yes, Cobra. I love Cobra. Cobra is what Beverly Hills Cop was supposed to be, apparently.
That's right.
which is
Oh,
awesome.
really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, the original the character's name originally was Axel Cobretti.
Really?
Axel Ready. Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Because Stallone was in the running to be Beverly Hills Cop for a hot minute.
Which is crazy though to think of it, but then he said that like there was no like real comedy in it though. Like it was totally like going to be a totally serious movie.
Yeah.
It's funny. I'm going to plug another
could-
podcast on the show, but I listened
imagine
to 80s All Over, and they were talking about something pretty interesting. So they were talking about how, you know, the movie Missing in Action.
Yes.
So Missing in Action, apparently the way it started was that James Cameron, you know, he wrote the treatment for Rambo First Blood Part 2, right? And apparently what happened was before that movie got made, the story went out, like the script went out and made the rounds, and everybody was like, wow, this script's really, really good, and this is going to be a great movie. And Canon got their hands on it, and they ended up assigning somebody to do like a low budget knockoff of it, Missing in Action, and they managed to get Missing in Action in theaters a couple of months before Rambo 2, and that's how that whole thing happened. And Missing in Action, the one that we saw, the first Missing in Action, is actually Missing in Action 2, because they shot two of them back to back.
Isn't that funny?
And the second one is so fucking bad they couldn't put it out in theaters, so they put they did put it out, but only after the first one came out and made some money.
Yeah,
I've actually
the
never
director,
seen any of those.
The director of Missing in Action 2 saw that the first one was shit, so he convinced Golan and Globus, like, put mine out first, and then you can release that one as a prequel.
And he was right though. He was right.
Yeah,
He was actually
it worked
right,
out.
though. That's the thing. It did work out. But and I mean, I think that it's funny. But I mean, Rambo 2, I think, is a really awesome movie.
It's a great. It is fucking great movie.
I like a lot of other of Cosmatos' others movies though. Like he did a great movie in the '70s, The Cassandra Crossing. Either of you ever see that one?
Nope.
No.
Never even heard of it. This is George.
Cool.
George Cosmatos?
Yeah, it's George Cosmatos, and it's basically like a hybrid disaster movie / action flick. So it's basically there's a train that's going through, I think, Switzerland or something like that, and then a guy breaks into the World Health Organization to steal a virus, right? A terrorist, and then it breaks when he's breaking out, and he gets infected, and he sneaks onto this train that's like traveling through Europe. And on the train, thank God, there's like an immunologist. It's played by Richard Harris, and his ex-wife Sophia Loren, and the whole cast. And then Martin Sheen's a drug dealer and whatever. And Burt Lancaster's this general who's basically trying to quarantine the train and to destroy the train so that the virus.
It's a great cast. I'm just looking at it.
It is a really cool cast. And then the thing is, the virus, though, it like if you expose it to air, it dies, and they figure that out. But they're still trying to get rid of the train to like get rid of the evidence. And there's some really, really good action scenes in the movie. Like there's this one really cool scene where Martin Sheen is climbing alongside the side of the train, and they do a lot of this stuff practically too, because it was the '70s. You know, there's some really good like shootouts, and I mean, it doesn't make a hell of a lot of sense that, you know, Richard.
Well,
Harris,
it's got O.J. Simpson in it.
Yeah, I saw that.
I'm getting to that. So Richard Harris is like a doctor, right? But he's like, you know, like gunfighting with and like, you know, and
Gardner.
but then okay, so O.J. Simpson plays a priest or a DEA agent masquerading as a priest. So he spends the entire movie in like a priest collar, but then it turns out he's DEA agent. So you see him literally shooting it out, like shooting people wearing like his clerical collar. It's
oh man,
funny.
This is on Prime Video. I can check it out.
It's a really fun movie. I mean, it's cheesy.
I am adding it to my queue, Chris.
I really like that movie. Yeah, it's fun.
I'm gonna have to check. It's a good recommendation, man.
Oh, and you know what? You know who did the score? It has an awesome score. Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, that's it. I'm
awesome Jerry Goldsmith score.
I'm in.
Yeah.
It's kind of amazing how few movies Cosmatos did.
Not very many, yeah.
But there was
like a good career,
but they left a hell of even to 3 or 4 that like are memorable. Tombstone left a huge mark. Cobra, First Blood Part 2, and then I don't know. I guess Leviathan. I mean, it's like
Leviathan. I like Leviathan.
But it's a really cheesy kind of knockoff.
Super cheesy.
But it's fun, and it's it's got.
But it has that great last line though. You guys have both seen Leviathan, I assume?
Oh yeah, yes. I've seen it.
So it has that great last line where he's just before he blows up.
Say motherfucker!
Yeah, motherfucker!
By the way, Cobra, by the way, we were talking about that. It's based on a novel called Fair Game, which they then remade with that's the Cindy Crawford movie.
Oh God, yeah, that's a.
Oh really? Holy shit! I'm learning so much today. I love it.
That's a terrible movie.
It is, but Cindy Crawford is amazing. So you just calm down.
Yeah, I mean, I remember seeing that though when it came out because it never. I don't think it ever.
Yeah.
It
I
was in
saw it in
theaters for like
theaters
a
and it was
week.
terrible. It was
It was in
bad.
theaters for a week here, but I saw it on video. But they had the Steven Berkoff was the main villain. Steve, and he was the
Yeah.
bad guy in
Rambo.
in Rambo. Yeah,
Yeah.
I love Rambo too, though. Murdoch, I'm coming to get you.
Oh, it's great.
The story about Rambo 3 also is that so Russell Mulcahy was the original director for Rambo 3, and you can see some of this footage that he shot on like the Blu-ray, and he got fired because the guys that he was hiring to play the Russian soldiers were all like models, and Stallone's like they don't really look tough, and he's like, no, it's perfect, and then Stallone was like, I don't think so.
Go make another Highlander. Get
Yeah,
out.
yeah.
You're done.
The
You know what I
guys-
think is
they
funny
look
is like at
the
the end
guys,
of
Russian soldiers, they look like Duran Duran, and you can see it.
they like break into a music video part.
Yeah.
It's like a little Russian music video. That'd be good.
Yeah.
Because Russell Mulcahy started music videos, didn't he?
Oh God, amazing!
Yeah.
It was Total Eclipse of the Heart, Hungry Like a Wolf, most of
Yeah.
the classics. That's how he got started.
That's probably where that comes from. I think it's.
And then he
when I was
made The
watching
Shadow.
I
Oh,
love The Shadow though.
I think it's such a bonkers like time capsule of a movie. Like I can't defend it, but I love it.
Has
The
a
problem
great-
that I had with The Shadow was the action was just so lackluster. For a movie that's supposed to be a comic book movie, it didn't really do much in that regard.
I would
Mid
say
bump.
this. Yeah, I think you're probably right. Like if you watch it now, the action isn't much.
Like what's
there's-
memorable about it? That's the problem. Like there's no key takeaway from The Shadow. Like, oh, I love that. Whoa, which part? No, there's no part.
You know what's memorable to me, honestly? It's the Jerry Goldsmith score.
The Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah, I
score.
mean Jerry Goldsmith is
Yeah.
you know,
But I mean, he like outdid himself in that movie. It's a very good score.
I love Jerry Goldsmith.
Yeah.
He's
One of my favorite composers of all time. When I was a kid, I had a book like one of those movie guides, and they listed composers. And whenever I saw that like Jerry Goldsmith had done a score, it made me want to go see the movie. That's how I saw. I would go to the video store and rent his movies that had scores by him, like Extreme Prejudice.
Ooh, I love Extreme Prejudice. That's a great movie.
Yeah, I did a best movie you never saw in Extreme
Back when
Prejudice.
Walter Hill was good and made
Oh, that was another era.
fuck. There's nobody making movies like Walter Hill used to make, and there's nobody scoring movies like Jerry Goldsmith. So
I know. I wish that I missed that whole kind of orchestral thing, though. They don't really do that anymore.
it's like, I mean, a
In
lot
that
of
way,
it's like
no.
they're just kind of hiring like Tom Hulkenberg to do everything, who is great, but
I
it's
like him a lot, but I find that everybody is trying to sound like Hans Zimmer now, though, because he's got that company, Media Ventures.
yeah.
Yes.
So that's kind of what has kind of changed.
I think the closest we have to Goldsmith now is like a James Newton Howard.
Yeah, but he's getting up there though, too. Though he's coming along, and James Newton Howard was never quite as good as Goldsmith. And same thing with Alan Silvestri.
No, and
These guys were
but Newton
of that
Howard, he
school.
has his own touch. Like I can tell a James Newton Howard
Yeah.
score when I hear it.
I mean, I used to really be able to tell when it was a James Horner score because he used to kind of lift from himself
Oh, yeah.
sometimes. But
yes.
Horner, yeah, he had a
He was
very
kinda
distinct signature.
he was kind of infamous.
He
for
had a
doing that,
few
stealing from
signature
himself.
cues.
Yeah. Yeah, but he made like some amazing scores though. Like Aliens is one of the best action movie scores ever.
I totally agree. It's great.
You know, I mean that score is
And that was one of his most like worst experiences. So that tells you something about his ability to create under
For
pressure.
Aliens,
Yeah, like he had a horrible experience with Cameron on that.
yeah, but he kept working with him though because he knew. You know,
Yeah.
that was the thing. It was that sometimes you work with somebody you don't necessarily like them, but you know that the guy is like he's gonna push you and he's gonna make it good. And
apparently-
his score for The Abyss is really good too. And his score
Oh yeah,
for
the Abyss
Titanic,
scores.
man.
This score is really good. Yeah,
Yeah.
oh wait, was it? I think Brad Fidel did Abyss.
No, that
No,
was
Sylvester. It
Am
was
I wrong?
Sylvester.
Oh yeah, you're
Silvestri,
right.
that's right. It was
Silvestri. Yeah, yeah, yeah. He did.
Yeah.
He did Titanic with him. That
That's
was the
right.
first one, and then he
Silvestri.
did Avatar as well.
Yeah, he did Avatar. Yeah. So, anyways, moving on.
Boy, we're getting sidetracked quite a bit today.
It's okay. So, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot is going to start shooting this
God,
week.
I'm so bored with that whole thing, though. Like, let's
But-
not.
Yeah, I
Well-
thought I was the only one. I'm glad to hear you say that.
Oh, dude.
So I
It's
guess
so-
I'll be the black sheep on this one. I mean, I'm not like over the moon excited for it, but like I really like the I love Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back, and I like those
Kinda
characters.
liked it.
So
We
I don't know.
watched
I'm
it together, Paul, when it came out.
Of course. Zaki has this uncanny ability to remember every movie he saw and who he saw it with. Dude. Like seriously,
I can kind of
it's
remember
like a
that too.
beautiful mind kind of thing. See, Zaki, I remember us going to see Shanghai Noon together in
Yes.
Chicago,
We
and
had the
Roger
special
Ebert
screening.
was there up in the
Roger Ebert.
balcony eating popcorn. I will never forget that. We were sitting
know.
there like, because that was my first critic screening that I ever went to. Because that was a critic screening,
It was.
I believe,
Yep.
right?
Yep. that
And you
was.
were doing reviews, professionally, I guess before me. You're doing for the school newspaper or something. I don't remember.
Yeah, but that one, like at that particular moment in time, I was not writing reviews. I don't know how I ended up getting invited to that.
Okay.
My
I
first
don't remember.
My first one was for my school newspaper at Concordia, and I went to see Blade 2. Blade 2, that was the first one.
Oh, 2002. My first review
Yeah.
ever that I wrote was Rumble in the Bronx.
Oh, man, yeah, guys, remember Rumble in the Bronx? That was no mountains in the Bronx.
See, I've been writing about movies and writing like kind of my own reviews or on my own site since like high school. Like before I even had a computer, I was like making these little books. I think I talked about that before. I made these little, like I made like my own issues of Entertainment Weekly with like review pages, and I would like fill in my
Wow.
thoughts and everything and give grades and all this shit. Like, so I've been doing it for fucking ever, but not professionally until like.
I mean, I did. What do you call it? So when I was in high school, I wrote a couple of reviews. I remember for my school newspaper, I wrote a review of The Corruptor. I think was the first movie that I actually reviewed.
With
And
Mark
then,
Wahlberg.
yeah, well, because I was a big Chow Yun-fat fan. I mean, I still am, and I loved Hong Kong movies because it was one of those formative kind of things. And I really wanted to see that movie, and I was really excited to see it. And I did a review of it. No, actually, God, you know what? The first reviews that I did are actually online. You remember there used to be like a Usenet group, or a Usenet review group?
No.
Well, you know. Anyway, so there used to be a Usenet review group, and I made an account when I was a kid, and I did in the summer of 1998. I did I did a review for Mask of Zorro, and I did a review for Lethal Weapon 4.
Nice.
And yeah, and those are still up there. And what was funny is when I got into Rotten Tomatoes writing for JoBlo, I didn't have to set up an account because what they had done when Rotten Tomatoes started, they looked at all the people from those use group and they made pages for all of them. So I actually already had a page.
Really?
And I didn't know about it. Yeah. And I didn't know about it for years. I had a page because I was one of the early reviewers, even though I'd only ever written 2 reviews. So it's crazy. Yeah, it's nuts.
Wow, that's weird.
It's a weird thing. Yeah, and those reviews are still online too. You can find them if you put in Chris Bumray and you put in those reviews. You can see them. I mean, they're not very good reviews. And I mean, I was very generous with Lethal Weapon 4. I thought.
Me too. I stick by
4.
my review of that.
I love Lethal Weapon 4.
You used to have the Riggs card. Do you remember that, Paul?
I did. That's why I got it. I got that fucking Grand Am because they had it in the movie. And I was like, man, that's a sweet car. And it really was a good car too. I loved it. But now they don't even make Pontiacs anymore. Pontiac is dead.
It's funny. I learned to drive on a Pontiac Sunfire. But
my dad was a Pontiac fucking fiend. He had Firebirds and Grand Prix and Grand Ams. He had everything. It's like everything Pontiac.
I remember though. It's funny you said Roger Ebert. So when I remember I saw 2 movies with Roger Ebert, like sitting next to Roger Ebert. So
did you guys share popcorn?
No. Okay. So
like both reaching your hands into the same popcorn bucket.
The first one was
your fingers touch.
The first one was Cyrus at Sundance. You know, wow. I only knew Roger Ebert after he had like the surgery, right? No, he had no lower jaw and couldn't speak, but he was very chipper and very nice. And when I kind of I sat next to him at Cyrus because there were no seats available, and there was one next to him. I think people were too intimidated, so I was like, "Hey, can I sit here?" And he gave me the thumbs up. You know, but he was alone; he couldn't talk, obviously, so it wasn't much conversation. I was too afraid to talk to him anyway. I was really nervous, and I saw the movie, and I was just trying to be like kind of as unobtrusive as possible. I didn't want to hassle him. But then a couple of years later, I was at TIFF for the premiere of that George Clooney one with Ryan Gosling. I forgot what it is.
Ides of March.
Yeah, Ides of March. Anyway, so I was sitting next to him and his wife Chaz, right? And his wife Chaz is a very talkative, likable person, right? And then she was like, "Hello," and she was just talking to me like kind of randomly, and he was there too. And so I was like, oh hey, so I told him, so of course I recognize you, and you're like a hero of mine. And he was super nice. Like she was kind of interpreting for him, and he just listened to me, and he was kind of, it's weird, we had a conversation just like with pantomime. He was kind of answering me, and it
Oh,
was,
that's interesting.
and it was, and she was kind of filling in the blanks, and she was super nice, and they were happy. They were interested to hear that I was from Montreal, and they told me that the guy who runs the World Film Festival in Montreal is a real fucking asshole, and I've heard that from
They pantomimed that.
yeah, and I've heard that, and I've heard that from everybody too. So that would kind of, I was like, yeah, I had some war stories about that, and we were kind of exchanging stories, and they were laughing. They thought that was kind of funny. But the thing is, I'd had an in with him because when he saw that I wrote for JoBlo, he was kind of excited because
Oh yeah, he knows Burge. He knew Burge
they
really well.
used to Burge audition to be his co-host on this Glenn Ebert, because Roger Ebert said you should send in a tape, and Burge's tape is hilarious because
I've seen it.
In his basement, he's got like his little goatee, and he's complaining about Ebert's review of Fight Club, and he's like, you got it wrong, and then it was funny. I think, but then they had met at Cannes and stuff, and they had lunch, and Chaz remembered Berge really well, and then she was, so it was kind of fun. He was a great guy. It was kind of sad to hear that he had passed. He was a wonderful guy.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he was a huge influence, I think, to all of us to some degree. It's kind of hard to ignore because he was one of the, if not the first, staple critics, like somebody that you would know, like a name person. Like, oh, what are you, like Roger Ebert? You start talking about a movie back in the day, like giving your opinion. That's kind of like the go-to. Everybody knew who he was. So those were the days. Anyways, Jay and Silent Bob Reboot filming this week. I think it'll be interesting to see what they do and if they can recapture it. It's a long time, and it's kind of a it's the last thing, I guess, that Kevin Smith owns in terms of his original properties he created. So it's kind of the only card in the deck, from my understanding, that he can play in terms of what he's done from the old days. So we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting to see if they can recapture it, if people are still into the weed and fart jokes. And if
so
that's
is this, like, it's called Jay and Silent Bob Reboot? So is it, like,
so
what is it?
Okay, so the reboot it's basically like Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. Okay, it's a sequel to that, essentially. So what they're doing is they're remaking the Jay and Silent Bob movie that they made in Jay and Silent Bob Strike Back. So Jay and Silent Bob are going back to Hollywood to try and stop the reboot. So the whole thing is about reboots and sequels and things like that, and kind of like taking the piss on those. Okay. So this should be interesting. We'll see what happens.
I mean, I'll watch it,
I'll watch it. If you put a gun in my head, I'll tell you.
I really don't know if I'll watch it, to be honest. Like, the thing
fucking
is,
Chris, you're watching it. You're fucking on it.
If you know what, if I'm reviewing it, I'll watch it, of course. And if it plays like a film festival that I'm attending, of course I'll watch it. Because I'd be remiss not to, right? But I'll tell you, after seeing Yoga Hosers at Sundance, I'm really turned off Kevin Smith movies now, man. That was pretty bad.
Yoga Hosers was terrible.
That was a really,
it really is unforgivably bad.
Oh,
really, it's like film student. Actually, that's insulting to film students.
Yeah,
it's like lazy professional.
Oh, and the hubris involved, and it was, I really had a hard time watching that movie, and it was depressing, and I was also, I didn't like the little games that he was playing with the press too. He gave me shit years ago because he was close with Berge, and because he wrote the intro to Berge's book, right? Yeah. And whatever, and they had a whole history, and then when Copland came out, I gave it a negative review because I really didn't like it. And then he wrote Berge like a message saying, "Hey, JoBlo, where's the love?" And then Berge like wrote him back something along the lines of, I think, like, well, he didn't. I don't know what he wrote him back, but he wrote me back, and he's like, "Well, he's complaining, but if it's a bad movie, it's a bad movie. What are you gonna do?" And then the thing is, like, about a year later, he goes out and he starts talking about how Copland sucked. So if I had given it a good review just because he was friendly with the site, I would have looked like an idiot, And
and you know what? Similar to that.
Either.
I'm sorry, let you finish. Sorry, my bad.
Berge, to his credit, didn't want that either. He was like, if it's a fucking movie, give it a bad review. And then it's the same thing. I went to see Red State and I fucking hated it. But at that point, he still had like really sycophantic fans on his site, like some of the bloggers that have kind of since gone away, and they were giving me shit for not liking it, saying I didn't understand it. I'm like, dude, I understood it.
Dude,
And
Red
now
Sting's terrible. Come on.
And now everybody agrees that it was bad. And it's funny because I reviewed Tusk at TIFF, and I was one of the few people that actually kind of liked it. I thought it was his best movie in a long time. Most people hated it. But then Yoga Hosers, I didn't like the little games that were being played because they weren't doing any press screenings until really late in the festival. And they were kind of dicking me around for getting tickets. And then I managed to get tickets through the press office, but then it looked like they were going to turn away a bunch of people because he was filling the audience with like his friends and sycophants. And, and it was a real kind of shit show getting in there. And I managed to get in like at the last minute, but then he gave this speech where he's like, it's not a real movie though. It's just, you can't look at it like it's a real movie. And it's like, dude, you're at Sundance Film Festival. Okay. It's a real movie. Okay. I just, it really turned me off, and I hated it. I absolutely hated it. It was just terrible. And even his like most devoted fans hated it.
So he was trying to basically Brie Larson the reviews. Is that correct?
Yeah, well,
to control the narrative.
He was trying to control the narrative, though. Absolutely. So you could say that it's an equal opportunity thing. Everybody does it. But
Paul, your Brie Larson stuff is really funny. I disagree, but I find it I find it very amusing. I will say, personally, I just, this is totally subjective, obviously. I interviewed Brie Larson like 6 years ago for Short Term 12, and
fantastic movie, by the way.
I love Short Term 12.
But she's honestly one of the best interviews I've ever had. She was just an absolute joy. And it's funny because the day that I was interviewing her, at the time we were expecting my youngest boy, and my wife was going to find out the gender of the baby, like basically while I was interviewing Brie Larson. And I was
so
like,
if it had been female, her name would have been Brie.
Maybe. But you never know. But she was like, I mentioned that in my review, like, oh, my wife's there. I'm actually there, so I might get a call any minute, And she's like, oh, let's call her right now. Let's find out, let's find out what the baby's going to be, But she was very, very nice. So I've been looking at sort of the internet meltdown surrounding her, and I'm like, my experience, she was very, very nice.
Yeah, I met her at a party too. I met her at a party for Free Fire, and that wasn't that long ago, and she was very nice, very pleasant.
I don't think she's not a nice person. I just think that she misspeaks.
Oh, sure, but a lot of people do. But it's funny though, Captain Marvel. So I was looking at some of the initial reactions, and people actually seem to be, they're all praising it, but they seem to be cool on it. If you could read between the lines,
yeah. If you read between the lines,
like Jimmy especially.
I talked to Jimmy about it at length. He didn't love it. He said it's good. He said it's fine. It's not
tweets,
great.
And he's he's easy on movies.
Oh God, Jimmy's the easiest sell on Jimmy. That's if you're listening, which you're not. But Jimmy is an easy sell. I know my reviewers.
He was just talking about like the cat and stuff like that. I'm like, call me crazy, but it sounds like Jimmy's like, it sounds maybe a 7 on 10 for Jimmy. Like it's not.
It is. No, it'll be a 6 or 7 from him.
Oops, some call is coming in. I'm sorry.
It's Brie Larson. She's like, what the hell?
Maybe. Yeah.
She's like, I heard you guys talking about me. Yeah. I hope you have a person of color on your podcast. Guess what?
I'm here, Brie.
We do actually.
Anyways, yeah, and the thing is, my thing was purely about what was said, and it's not about Captain Marvel at all, because I want Captain Marvel to be a great movie. I don't think it will be, and that's not because I have anything against her. It's because this came from the trailers, and you can follow my tweet history for those that like to deep dive into that shit, psychos. I initially said when I saw the original teasers and trailers, I was like, man, like I'm kind of underwhelmed. Like I'm not feeling like what I normally feel for some of these movies, and like, oh my God, it's the excitement level is just very low, and it continues to be. But it's not so much for what Brie, says in the press. It's just like, it just doesn't look that great. Like it looks like it'll be okay. And I gave, this is coming from somebody who gave Wonder Woman a 10 on 10. Like I loved Wonder Woman. I thought it was fantastic. I would probably give it a 9 on 10 in retrospect, now that I've watched it a couple times. I think I was a little, caught up in the hype of it, but I still think it's a great movie. But yeah, I mean, it's, I don't have any kind of personal vendetta against Brie. I just think that she misspeaks. I think the things she says, she doesn't really give a lot of thought to, and she kind of like, it's kind of a little bit arrogant and a little bit kind of misguided and not really well thought out when she puts what she puts out there. And I think a lot of it is grandstanding. She kind of makes a big scene about things that she doesn't need to. Like, you can do these things. It's like the person that makes a contribution to, some charity, and then, like, rather than just do it and let it go, it's got to be a news story. Denzel Washington has been writing checks for the Fisher House and doing all this other great work for decades, but there's no stories written about it. He's not putting out tweets about it or, talking about any of it. He's like, I'm trying to, like, help veterans and trying to do this and trying to do that, but he's not grandstanding about it. So,
hey, guys, can we pause for just a second? I'm getting this call. They keep calling me like 3 times. Just give me a second.
Yeah, it's good. I'm going to mark down the time so I make sure to edit it. Or should I edit it? Zaki, we can talk. Let's talk about Chris.
I like Chris. Chris is a good egg.
He has egg head. He's bald.
Oh my goodness.
So, yeah. Have you seen Captain Marvel yet yourself?
I'm seeing it a week from tomorrow.
Wow. Why are your screenings so late?
I don't know. It's really weird. Yeah. Usually, I mean, it just varies, honestly. Like what I've learned is in terms of the Bay Area market, we tend to have our press screenings later rather than sooner. But every once in a while, we'll get shown something super early. Like we saw Civil War like a month before it came out. We saw Logan like a month before it came out.
Yeah.
But rarely. Yeah. It's. Yeah. I mean, it's weird because we're like the third.
Hey, that wasn't you calling.
Biggest market,
was it? Oh. Weird.
Yeah, it's
that's a landline that I'm getting it from. I don't know who it is.
I know that they're trying to
they got me over and over again. I don't know.
They're trying to protect they're trying to protect the
no answer.
The ending and like the spoilers or whatever.
I thought maybe you were calling me or something.
Jimmy O, I talked to Jimmy O and I told him, I was like, since I'm not really excited, I was like, well, just tell me what are they? I won't say them here, but he told me what they were, and I was like, I didn't feel like they were something that needed to be protected. It was kind of like, isn't this kind of obvious?
Oh, interesting.
So,
that
kind of just makes me wonder, like, why they're holding, because they're holding the embargo to like the 5th.
Yeah, which is like we're seeing it on the 4th, which is so weird.
It's like 3 days before release. So
that is very odd.
And again, just like hearing what the end scene stuff is, and I was just like, really? Because of that? It's kind of obvious.
Doesn't seem worth it to you.
No, not at all.
I'm assuming it's some kind of endgame tie-in.
Yeah.
Okay.
I won't.
Alrighty, I'm back, guys.
It seems obvious.
That's okay.
Hey,
we
Chris.
just continued without you.
Oh.
I mean, who's trying? It's probably a wrong number. Somebody's trying to call you.
Yeah.
Like if you get the wrong number from somebody and then you just keep dialing and dialing.
Yeah, weird. Anyway, I'd stop
probably
emergency or something.
It's Brie Larson's
Maybe. So another story that we were going to talk about is Kevin Feige is confirming that Black Widow is not R-rated. What a surprise!
What?
I am shocked. I tell you, shocked.
Yeah.
So shocked. I mean, did we not say this like 1,000 times that there's no fucking way it's going to be rated R? Like, come on. We do this for a living, people.
It's Paul, you saw this on Twitter like a month and a half ago, whenever this was first announced. I was like, spoiler alert, it won't be rated R, and some guy responds, plot twist, it will be, and you're wrong. I'm like, okay. All right.
Denouement. You were wrong. I mean, here's the thing. Like, people give us shit sometimes, because we're in this, in this community, and this is, our job to report on the news, to talk about the news, to write reviews and things like that. It doesn't make us special, but I mean, this is what we do for a living. Like, we do this. This is what we get paid to do. That doesn't mean that we're like the greatest or some fucking, you should worship us. We're just a bunch of fucking assholes, but it is our job, and I could tell you, and I know you guys know it too. It's like, when you look at the history of these things, you look at the industry, you look at how this works. Why in the fuck would they make an R-rated Black Widow movie? Please explain it.
Sense.
What, and in what way? What are we going to see? What does a Black Widow need to merit an R? Are we going to see Scarlett Johansson's tits? I mean, 'cause that's fine. If I'll pay for that. But that's not going to happen. You know what I'm saying? She's been an icon for kids to watch. You know what I'm saying? Like, girls look up to her. They cosplay as her. She's like one of the original female characters in the MCU universe. What the fuck are they going to do on R-rated? Like, what exactly? A bunch of F-bombs? Some blood?
Doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, they're like, she's an assassin. I'm like, so? Like, she's barely been an assassin in the comic. Come on, Zaki, you've read the comics. In the last like decade, she's just been an Avenger. She's not killing anybody. She's not out there just taking hits. I mean, in fact, I think since she's been introduced, the assassin aspect has always been a historical aspect.
It's always
not
been backstory. Yeah.
Yeah. There's never been a trajectory where she began as this like Elektra type character where she's just offing people. It's always been like, just like in the Avengers, like, oh, I've got red in my ledger, you know?
Exactly. Yep.
It's always been that way. So, you know, there's no reason for it. And Marvel likes money. And that's not to say they're particularly greedy. It's just that this is what they do. Why would it be Black Widow that would be the R-rated one?
While we're on it, I mean, I don't think Birds of Prey or even Joker necessarily is going to be R. I think Joker potentially could be, but I have my doubts.
But
The thing it doesn't need to be really either.
Yeah, like why does Joker need to be R? Like in what way? I mean, I guess if you wanted to look at like, and Zaki, maybe you can chime in on if there's something else, but I think probably the Killing Joke is probably the most R-rated the Joker's been.
Yeah.
In terms of like shooting Barbara Gordon and taking her clothes off and taking naked pictures of her and hanging them up and torturing. Jesus Christ, is pretty fucked up. But
well, there was that Azzarello miniseries, I think, right? Or there's like I think Lee Bermejo drew it. That was pretty
the
dark.
Joker book, yeah, that's kind of like. But I don't think I don't remember it as well. I do have it,
Yeah.
But I don't remember it as well as being like super intense, dark. It really felt more like a DCEU or I'm sorry, a Nolan version.
Sure.
Those characters, because he's drawn that way too. He's drawn as like
with the scars.
Yeah. And Lee Bermejo's art is amazing.
That's great. Yeah.
So good. But yeah, I mean, I don't understand why Joker would need to be rated R. Like what? He's not Hannibal Lecter.
Well, and plus, I mean, I think the you know, people sort of look at the PG-13 rating and they're like, oh, it's being, you know, dumbed down or kiddified. And it's like, well, there is a wide range of movies that fall within PG-13. I mean, not all PG-13 is the same, you know, so I don't reflexively write it off. As you know, I mean, The Dark Knight is like just this side of an R, if you ask me.
Yeah,
I mean, it is
yeah,
PG-13,
absolutely.
so, you know,
Sure, I think very, very close.
I think a lot of that is the case now. I mean, you look at the Fast and Furious movies. I think that they push the limits in terms of what they say and do, the action, the violence, even the sexuality of those movies. Like is pushed very fine to the line, and even Alita: Battle Angel, I think, is a very like on the edge kind of movie. Like you have beheadings and eviscerations, people getting cut in half, like all kinds of mutilation. You have that well placed fuck in there. I think a lot of movies today, like PG-13 is really kind of R light at this point. So to say that we need an R-rated Joker or even R-rated Birds of Prey, why?
I mean, I think, a lot of movies that we liked when we were younger that were R-rated now would probably be PG-13. I mean, a lot of the Lethal Weapon movies, I think, probably would be PG-13 now. They're not. I mean, Lethal Weapon 3 probably would be.
Yeah,
they're not
Lethal Weapon 3 could
movies.
be PG-13. I think Lethal Weapon 4 can't
Lethal
take
3 and 4.
Lethal 2 is definitely R though.
Yeah.
Lethal 4.
Because Patsy Ken's it. I mean, you gotta.
Yeah.
Lethal 4 was almost PG-13.
Don't take away the boobs. Well, everybody's got to try and take away the boobies.
I remember that they were trying to get a PG-13 rating for Lethal Weapon 4. I remember that was like the story, and it didn't quite work out. They weren't able.
I think today it would be PG-13.
Oh, easily.
Easily. Yeah. I agree.
Very. Yeah. There's. I can't even think of why it would be an R outside of a few. Take out a few fucks. That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Not that big of a deal. I can't believe I'm saying that.
And I mean, when you look at like Die Hard 4 and Die Hard 5, the fifth one is R, right?
Yeah.
And the fourth one was PG-13. I got to be honest, I prefer the fourth one over the fifth one.
Well,
they
just got motherfucker in there, but the fifth is terrible. I mean, I don't like either of those movies, but it's just.
If you got to pick,
I would certainly take 4. God, 5 is just an atrocity.
Yeah. 5 is just like hackworth. Yeah,
Jesus Christ! It's like straight to video Die Hard.
Oh yeah,
it's so awful. I want to punch that movie in the face.
Red Hut's star power of Jai Courtney as Bruce Willis doesn't make any sense.
Well, maybe Bruce Willis can put in a cameo in Jane Silent Bob Reboot. Those two crazy kids can work things out
and work it out right there. It'd be funny if he returned as his Copland or Cop Out character. That'd be funny. So anyways, I don't know. There's indications that Birds of Prey could potentially be R, but I really think that by the time they get to editing and they're talking about marketing and they're talking about what they're putting together, unless like this movie is bathed in blood and gore I see a PG-13 coming. I find it interesting how many people they want to fight for this R. They're like, I want an R, man. I want hardcore. But I guarantee you, whatever R they're making for either one of these, and I, with the caveat that I could be completely fucking wrong, but I think probably what they're making right now, if they are making R, is going to be R light as it is. I don't think they're going all in on Birds of Prey. This isn't going to be a fucking Paul Verhoeven movie. And I don't think Joker's going to be some dark Jonathan Demme Silence of the Lambs type fucking Joker movie. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. So be it. But I just don't see it. I think that in the end, when you're looking at what these properties are, who they appeal to, I think an R is a risk that they may not want to take. And I think a lot of people say, well, the budget is low. And I'm like, okay. I mean, that certainly could help. But at the same time, money. Like, why throw it away? So
do you think that the new Ghostbusters is going to be rated R?
Yeah, of course. It stars kids. It's going to be R. 12 and 13-year-old kids.
Stand by me. Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to find dead bodies and it's going to be fucking exorcisms and possessions. It's fucking hard. Actually, I'm kind of liking this idea.
Jason Reitman, so he's under a lot of fire this week because he said he was going to give Ghostbusters back to the fans, but it was kind of cushioned in some praise for the last one too. But everybody's going crazy. I have to say this though. I find that the idea of a new Ghostbusters movie, after having gone through what we went through with the last one, just people trolling online and being such assholes about it, I'm done. Let's not do another one. And I find the idea of
I'm with you, Chris. Yeah.
And I find the idea of kids in a Ghostbusters reboot sounds pretty juvenile. I mean, well, it is, but I mean, what's the point? I don't need to see Stranger Things is already on the air. We've already got that. It just sounds like a Stranger Things ripoff almost. And why bother? That doesn't interest me at all. The fact that it's children, and they're trying to be like it in Stranger Things, and I just don't think it's necessarily work. It sounds like it is. It sounds bad actually. And the thing is, Reitman's last couple of movies have all been pretty bad. So I don't know if I have that much faith in it anymore.
Well, I think I'm a little more open to the idea of it, but I will say this. If they're not able to make this one work, they really need to pack it in.
Oh God. Yeah.
If this one isn't a major hit, and I mean it needs to be a major hit, not just a fucking lukewarm, it's kind of like nice. If it's not a huge hit, they just need to stop. Yeah, please stop. Put the fucking proton packs away. Let this thing just sit for like fucking 30 years when I'm possibly dead. And then you can revive it. Do what you want.
It makes me want to mute Ghostbusters on Twitter though. Like I just don't want to see it. It's just I don't want to get called back into that. I still get people posting on my reviews mad that I gave the other one a good review, and it's just fuck off, people. I've had it.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's really like I love the franchise. I love I love all the movies. Well, I liked the third one, but I like the cartoon show. It's part of my life. My kids love it. So
sure.
It's depressing to me that the phrase Ghostbusters has become so just toxic because people are just so shitty about it.
Oh God.
Yeah.
And when I read what Reitman said, that initial quote that really sort of, got booster rockets strapped on it. I saw what he was trying to say, but as I read it, I kind of winced a little bit.
Yeah, it's just clumsy.
Ooh, yeah, and then he did have to clarify, and when he clarified, people were like, "Oh, too little, too late," and people jumped on him. I'm like, why would he mean it the way people are interpreting it? You know what I mean? That doesn't make any sense. But unfortunately, this is a topic that has become very polarized, right? So it's like them or us type of thing.
Yeah.
And there's a conversation to be had about how the 2016 movie has flaws, but you can't have that conversation because it gets infused with a lot of politics, unfortunately.
Yeah. And I didn't personally. I didn't dislike the 2016 movie. I thought it was fine. I didn't love it either, but it was kind of like it was fine. Okay. I thought Chris Hemsworth was hilarious. I really liked him in it. I really liked Kate McKinnon. I thought it was way too jokey, almost to the point of slapstick, or actually to the point of slapstick.
And it started laughing at its own premise.
Yeah, and I think that like
There was
one of
no
the things
sense
that
of menace. That was
Exactly.
probably the
yeah,
big
exactly.
That's exactly right.
And like the first the 84 Ghostbusters, it felt like it began that way. Like the library scene was creepy. Like I remember being scared as a kid, watching that. And I felt like there should have been a little more, I don't know, a little bit more based in reality kind of
The
thing rather than,
threat. The threat was always credible, and that was
yeah.
not so much in the second, but in the first one for sure. And that's kind of
Well, even
what.
in two, Vigo, like he
Yeah.
scared me. That dude was freaky, man. Like at least there was that element, where you're
I
like,
mean,
man,
you know,
kinda
when
scary.
you watch the '84 movie, the scene I always point to is when William Atherton shows up to shut down the system, right?
Yeah, that's a great scene.
And watch Bill Murray. He's playing it straight,
Yeah,
and we buy it because he's like, "Don't shut it down."
yeah.
And meanwhile, if you look at the 16 movie, the scene I always point to in that is where Kristen Wiig is telling Andy Garcia, like he's the mayor, right? She's
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you're,
yeah.
you're gonna be like the mayor from Jaws, and he's like, don't ever compare me to the mayor from Jaws. And I'm like, it's a funny line, but not
But-
in this movie.
Yeah, because it's like it's a point where she's trying to like, hey, don't like you need to help the city. You gotta do
Exactly.
something.
Yeah.
And instead it feels like an SNL skit.
Exactly.
It gets way too comedic, and you're just like, well, you're like, so should I take any of this seriously? And even the scene when you have Chris Hemsworth's character making everybody dance and do all this other stuff, it's kind of like I can see how that would seem funny, and it is, but it's in the wrong movie. I felt.
Speaking of Hemsworth, though.
Oh shit! Look at how I set it up.
Master of the segue.
He's going to be playing Hulk Hogan in a Netflix movie directed by Todd Phillips. Not bad casting, though, to be honest.
That's right, brother.
I could see it. I could totally see it.
I mean, I'm very curious the tone. We're just now talking about that with Ghostbusters. Yeah. Like, is this going to be more of a comedy? Because I can see that with Hemsworth.
Yeah.
And Todd Phillips.
But I'd actually like to see not super serious. I think because Hulk Hogan is he's kind of funny, and I grew up loving Hulk Hogan in terms of like wrestling. Like that was the wrestling era I was invested in as a kid. Was Hulk Hogan, Andre the Giant, Jake the Snake, all
great characters. Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So I mean, I would like to see, and this was the thing that Chris, if you remember, when we saw Fighting with My Family, one of the criticisms I had of that is I wanted to see more of the behind the scenes stuff in terms of like how they put the shows together and all that other stuff. So I want to see how they make the donuts with the wrestling thing, and I think they could really do that with this. So I think it's an exciting project. I think it could be really fun.
It does turn me off a bit though, where they're like, "Oh no, we're not covering any of the negative stuff from years later," and he's going to have a big part of the movie. And it's just, I don't know. He kind of now Hulk Hogan has been kind of ruined for me a little bit. I think just hearing those audio tapes, knowing he's a racist, and knowing he's a bit of a dickhead, and the whole Gawker scandal and the lawsuit.
And I would like to see that stuff. I'd like.
I would too. I wish. And I wish that was in the movie. That would make me That would make me a lot more excited if it was gonna feel at all like you were gonna get a legitimate movie that would maybe kind of explain the legend and give both sides. But instead, it's just gonna be kind of like a puff. I think it's probably just gonna be like a puff piece celebrating him, and that's I don't need to. But then again, Todd Phillips is a great director, so.
And Chris Hemsworth is really fun, so I'll take it. I'll take it, but it's not fooling me any more than like say Bohemian Rhapsody. I know that there's a lot more going on with Freddie Mercury that we just didn't see, but it's like, do I need to see Freddie Mercury having like a menage a trois and orgies and snorting coke and doing all kinds of? Do I need to see all that to know that it happened? Not necessarily. I know that Chris wants to see that.
Yeah, sure.
But I don't necessarily.
That is the version of Queen, the movie that I wanted, the hardcore R-rated version.
See, I mean, I take Bohemian Rhapsody on the value of it's like a fable, about Queen. I know that there's way more that went into the band, like the fighting and the just all the normal stuff. But here's the other thing too, and even though I take that at that value, I also like, if we're going to make movies about historical figures and people like that, I think that it should be warts and all. I think that that's what makes characters interesting. And we're starting to get into this thing in society where it's like, people can't have flaws. You have to be some kind of purpose. Like everybody's running for politics or something. It's like, there are racist people. And those racist people, they can actually still have like good things that they've done and still be racist, and vice versa. You can have all the people are shades of gray. They aren't black or white. Some people may be black or white that are basically extremists, but I mean, most people have like these varying shades of like flaws, and then they have attributes that make them great and they have attributes that make them terrible, like all these great things. And that is what makes a unique, cool character, or just a unique person to like kind of, like Steve Jobs was known as a fucking asshole, but he created the iPhone. I love my fucking iPhone.
What do you think, Zaki? What do you think of this whole thing?
I think it does the real life history a disservice when you do try to make it squeaky clean. I mean, Chris, I think I lean a little bit more where you are in terms of the relative quality of Bohemian Rhapsody.
Yeah.
While also agreeing with Paul that I don't think the movie we got is necessarily bad. So I guess I'm
not.
I mean, I think the Hulk Hogan story, to me, the idea that they're just gonna either just end the story before the later stuff or hopscotch over it, because obviously I'm assuming they want him involved. I think that runs the risk of painting a portrait of this person that is disingenuous given what we know about him.
Yeah. Well, and then the other question comes up too. It's like, if you're making a biopic, are you like required to cover every aspect of their life? Like, how much do you need to cover to tell the story? And if you're covering just a certain part of their life, is that disingenuous to the audience? I think it's an interesting conundrum because, you have people like, say, Lance Armstrong. You could make a story about the first half of his life and be like, it's just like amazing. Like, oh, he's like a hero. And then like you have the second half where it's like, oh shit, he cheated. He was a fucking, basically a cheater. You know? And it's like, so which story do you tell? Or how do you tell a complete story?
I mean, they did a terrible Lance Armstrong movie, The Program, with Ben Foster. Yeah. And that was, his performance was awful in it because he played him as a Bond villain, sneering and cackling throughout. And it was just, I don't think that's really how it went down. He had his good points too, and it was just, but the movie would, just portrayed him as this sniveling psychopath, and it was just, let's have some kind of shades of gray here. And it was terrible.
I think that's a great example there of how, if you're making one of these movies and you're nitpicking, or rather, just cherry picking a certain aspect and making it that, is that fair? You know what I'm saying? Does that really tell the whole story? And I think that's why I like Bohemian Rhapsody, is that it touches on those things. You see like Freddie going, you see that he's had these crazy parties and that there's drug use and that there's, sex and all this other stuff. You just don't see it. But at least it doesn't try to say, hey, none of it existed. It said, hey, it existed. It was there. We're not going to show you, but yes, we're going to tease you and let you see that, hey, all of this stuff was going on in his life. So I appreciated that. And I think that's what ultimately made Bohemian Rhapsody a little more well-rounded than some people give it credit for, even though they didn't get to see the Oliver Stone version of Bohemian Rhapsody, which, I mean, I think, you go watch The Doors and you'll see what that would have been.
I think with, like what I said after Bohemian Rhapsody, and this is not, I'm sure I'm not the only one, but, Walk Hard basically ruined me for any more music biopics because it so strenuously sticks to that formula. But I think in a broader sense, the mistake that filmmakers are making is the notion of biopic as being expansive, as opposed to finding a slice of the story to tell. Yeah. And I think when we look at Hulk Hogan, I'm not particularly interested in his early years, except perhaps as tangential parts to the stuff we all care about, which is the invention of the persona.
Yeah.
And the birth of WWF as we know it today. So to me, that's the movie I'm interested in, is if we get kind of this interesting look at Hulk Hogan being a window into how wrestling entertainment became a phenomenon. That's kind of interesting.
And I think that's a great point. I think that's an important aspect. And I think if you're looking at Hulk Hogan, if you're like, well, what are we trying to tell about this guy? Do we need an hour? Because you could make an hour and a half long movie about his Gawker scandal. You could make an hour and a half movie about, tapes that you unearthed from somebody. You could do the same thing for Mel Gibson or anybody else that's been caught on recording, R. Kelly, whatever. But in the end, I think you have to look at what their impact was. Same thing for for Jobs. For Steve Jobs, like they kind of portrayed that, hey, he's kind of a dick. But at the same time, they highlighted what his achievements were, what drove him, what made him who he was. And I think that's ultimately, if you're making a biopic, you get 2 hours, maybe 3 if you're lucky, to tell this story. You have to pick, or you have to really look at the all-encompassing aspect of these people and say, are we capturing this person accurately? Even if you're not capturing every single moment. Because in the end, this is still a film medium. it's a challenge, unless you're making a miniseries on Netflix, you have a 2-hour window to tell this story. So it's a tricky thing. It's a tricky conundrum to make a biopic, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
So speaking of, people making movies that are really good and then some asshole deciding that they don't like a 3-second shot, we have The Departed, which I consider one of my absolute favorite Martin Scorsese films. Apparently and I've honestly never even given this a second thought, but apparently people are so butthurt over the fucking rat.
Yeah, me too. I never gave it a second
at
thought.
the end that this dickhead has gone out and started a GoFundMe to digitally erase the rat. The actual rat that crawls along the Boston skyline on the apartment thing at the end of the movie. Like, it bothers this person so much that they're investing their time, their energy, their efforts to raise money to hire somebody to digitally erase this thing, then burn Blu-ray copies and send them out to the people that contributed. This is just the most asinine thing. And it's like, to me, is a picture of complete entitlement, disrespect, and arrogance and ugliness over, what the access that people have to films and filmmakers these days. And it's just ugly. It is so stupid and unwarranted. I can't even believe that something like this exists. But then again, I can, because it's today, and that's what people do. And so this guy, he even broke it down like in little pieces of where he's going to spend the money to do this. And all that money that he's raising and putting together, I don't see how or why he doesn't just go make something himself. For $4,000, you can make your own short film. You can do anything. But instead, he's going to erase a digital rat. Like, I don't fucking get it. I don't understand this world we live in.
It's so disrespectful. And who is anybody to second guess Martin Scorsese? The guy is one of the greatest directors of all time. And it's just absolutely, you know what? He wanted to put a rat in there. He had a reason that he wanted it in there. Whether you agree with it or not, you should at least respect it. And God forbid going back and retouching the movie. Obviously it's just some kind of thing it's illegal what he's doing anyway. He can't go back and do that. He can't change the movie. It's not his intellectual property, and it's not his, the studio still owns the movie too. So whatever he's doing, he's accepting money for doing something that's essentially illegal. Yeah. And it's just stupid. It's just absolutely stupid. I hate it when people that aren't, when people like to do this, take revisionist takes on movies and, whatever. You don't have to necessarily. The Departed's not my favorite Scorsese movie. Not even close. But would I ever second guess Scorsese? Never. And I would never go back and do that to any director's movies. It's just stupid.
No, I don't understand it. This whole thing, everybody thinking they have a better idea than the artist that created it, it irks me. It angers me. To think that you have the right of way to somebody else's art. It's bullshit. It's like saying, I don't like Picasso's brushstrokes on this painting. Picasso. He's a new up and coming artist. It's to think that you know better. It's like, fuck off. This is somebody else's vision.
Go back and look at the Mona Lisa and think, what? She needs to smile. Let's put more of a nice smile. More. Yeah.
It's just complete fucking bullshit that anybody thinks that they can do that. And the hubris to think that you can do that, like, I'll change it myself. I'm like, fuck you, go make your own fucking movie. Like, who are you to go and change this? Like, no, just go away. Even if it's not, even if you looked at it and you're like, hey, it really is kind of crappy. We don't like it or whatever the case may be. Too bad. It's somebody else's art. It's somebody else's vision. Go make your own shit. But anyways, this guy, go fuck yourself. You're an idiot. You're wasting everybody's time. You got your fucking 15 minutes of fame. You got more than your $4,000. So enjoy burning your copies of a fucking ratless Departed. Enjoy your fucking cease and desist from Warner Brothers, you moron.
If I can add a thought, I mean, I think there's a broader conversation about, the internet age we live in, which is obviously pluses and minuses, but it has fostered this participatory aspect of film culture.
Yeah.
And I would say it's fostered a degree of entitlement in people, and we see this reflected on Twitter, like God forbid you look at the responses and underneath any tweet Ryan Johnson makes, where people
Oh God,
just feel not like or dislike the movie, the nastiness people show towards this guy who had the gall to make a movie they didn't like, and it's like,
absolutely.
and so to me this is just an evocation of that. It's this sense of like we've come to view movies as multiple choice, because how is this different than, I want to fundraise and remake Last Jedi or whatever, and it's like, well, no, that's not how that's not how any of this works.
Stupid.
Listen,
I'm somebody that didn't like Last Jedi, but I would never ever advocate for that. That's Ryan Johnson's vision. That's what he made. So
Exactly.
be it. You just have to fucking deal with it. Doesn't matter if you liked it, hated it, whatever. That's what's done. That's what's put out, and that's it.
I mean, think about this. Like, okay, you don't like that thing in The Departed? Okay, here's an idea. Switch it off right before the rat comes on.
It's like
go.
5 seconds. Just turn it off. Pretend the movie ends at that point.
I mean,
And it's just, why would you be so bothered by it too? It doesn't make any sense to me. People are, like you said, people are super entitled, and everything has to be my way, my way, my way. And
it's like, I guess it's like a bunch of petulant children.
Yeah.
Go make something yourself.
It bothers you so much that clearly you don't like the movie as much as you say you do, and fuck off.
Yeah,
I fucking love The Departed.
Yeah.
Next time I watch it, I'm gonna rewind it and watch the rat scene twice.
Yeah, good.
Just to spite you fucking idiots.
Yeah, what do you think of that?
What do you think of that? I'm watching the rat again. Look at that. He's a good crawler. It's a good rat. So stupid. All right. Anyway, so people are dumb. Please stop making petitions for everything. Fuck you. Go make your own thing. Nobody owes you anything. Nobody owes you art.
.org. I don't want to hear that site again.
Christ. Change this. Change that. Release this. Release that. Do this. Fuck you. Go make your own shit. Mm-hmm. Seriously. Like, I wish, Zaki, you can back me up on this. I wish I had the kind of assets that people have today to make movies. Are you fucking kidding me?
Yeah, me too.
All the shit that I had to go through to make films in my early days, like, holy crap. Now when I go on like press things and I do like these, events in other countries and stuff, I film it on my fucking iPhone in 4K.
Yeah.
Give me a break. You can make a movie on your iPhone. So don't sit there and try and like change somebody else that's been doing this for 30, 40 fucking years and think you know better.
I mean,
you know better, go make your own.
I watched Soderbergh's new movie, High Flying Bird, on Netflix, and it was shot on an iPhone.
Yeah, fucking.
It looked great.
And there you go. Like, go make your own movie. Leave other people's art alone.
Yeah. Hey, speaking of Netflix, boy, it seems like that's the only option this month, though. March is shaping up to be one of the dullest months in movie-going history, I think, or at least this year, if you look at the release calendar. I think a lot has to do with the fact, though, that they're anticipating Captain Marvel and Us are going to take all the air out of the box office. So fair enough, but there's nothing, though, in terms of counter programming. It's
awful. It's almost like they set up March for Captain Marvel, because I was looking at the calendar today and I was like, that's it.
Even this week, there's nothing. There's Greta with Isabelle Huppert, which was fun, but it's not going to do any business. And it's just, there's nothing coming out over the next couple months. Not even any. Like, you at least sometimes get counter programming with these movies, but it seems like they just don't think anybody's going to go see anything. They're making way for Captain Marvel, and then so there's just nothing coming out. But what's interesting is that Netflix is kind of picking up the slack, and they've got 3 huge movies coming out this month. So there's Triple Frontier with Ben Affleck, Oscar Isaac, Charlie Hunnam, Garrett Hedlund, Pedro Pascal. There's going to be The Dirt, the Motley Crue movie, and then there's going to be Highwaymen with Kevin Costner and Woody Harrelson.
Man,
all which look good. Yeah, all
3 movies I will absolutely watch. Those are 3 movies I won't skip.
I
won't wait on. I will absolutely sit and watch those as soon as they come out.
Yeah.
The truth is, all 3 of those movies I would go to the theater to see.
Oh yeah, me too. Absolutely.
I
kind of wish I could. I'd love to see Triple Frontier and Highwaymen on the big screen. I'd love to.
Those are all movies I would go to the theater to see if they were actually being released theatrically. It kind of makes it easier. I can just watch them at home. But yeah, I would rather experience them on the big screen. It's one of those double-edged swords where it's like I'm glad that Netflix is making these movies, but at the same time, it'd be nice to be able to see them at the theater. You know,
Well,
and I know that they get limited engagements for some, but
I watched Apostle last night. The
I
Garrett
liked
Evans movie.
Apostle.
Yeah,
Really
me too.
good.
That would have also been a movie though I would have liked to have gone to see in theaters. It would have probably would have been better in theaters than at home.
Oh man, if you guys haven't seen The Apostle, it is a trippy, crazy fucking movie. It's very good. Zaki, did you see it by any chance?
I did not.
Okay, it's good.
Yeah.
It's weird. It's trippy. It's not what you expect. And it's got some good scares.
Yeah,
I enjoyed it. I thought it was cool. But it's weird because normally this would be what you see in a January, but Hollywood has since kind of like transitioned things to make January and February almost like, big debut months.
Yeah, January has some big stuff now.
Now March is like,
and next year, Bad Boys for Life is supposed to come out in January. Like January has become a relatively big month.
Yeah, so it's interesting how it's changed. They just they bumped a few months to be the dump month. Mm-hmm. So now it's March, it seems.
I mean, it's not necessarily a dump month, but it's just like one or two big movies, and that's it. Yeah. Like huge movies. I mean, Captain Marvel is going to be big, and I think Us will be very big too. But it's just there's nothing like in terms of, even B movies coming out this month.
There's no like comedies. There's no.
Yeah, it's dead. Well, they don't make those anymore, really. Even. Yeah.
Yeah. My kid's getting a phone call. Crazy. Yeah, I mean, I'm looking at the calendar now, and I mean, Aftermath, Captive State. I mean, I don't think
it seems like Captive State is going limited, if at all. I mean,
Where'd You Go, Bernadette? Like, I don't know.
Where'd You Go, Bernadette isn't coming out. It's not coming out until next until the winter, until summertime.
Dumbo's at the end of the month too. So
I guess that'll be big. Yeah, sure.
So there's 3 movies. I don't know, but yeah, it seems pretty overwhelming. Like kind of just Then April, there's the small indie hit follow up, The Avengers Endgame. Sure, that's. I think a couple people.
But then there's Hellboy and Shazam and Pet Sematary, and that's going to be a big month. Yeah.
Yeah, April's got a hell of a lineup.
Yeah.
Fuck. Yeah, April's looking pretty good. Mm-hmm. So, April's kind of like the new May. Yeah. It's so weird. Oh, the way this happens is so crazy. Wow.
What do you think, Zaki? Any thoughts?
Well, I mean, I think what we're really seeing is the resorting of the industry in the wake of Disney just like dropping blockbusters wherever they feel like it. And to some extent, I was telling my media classes this the other day. I was like, I've never seen a Disney schedule like this where they're just running the table. And so everyone else is reactive.
Yeah.
And I would echoing what you said, I think Highwaymen should be a theatrical movie. I think Triple Frontier should be a theatrical movie. So the industry is hurting, in my opinion, in terms of the variety that's available. And that's a shame. But I mean, the reality is that people are going to the theaters only to watch those big Disney style blockbusters.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it is what it is, this is the new normal.
Yeah, it's just a weird transition. And interesting to watch, but yeah.
I mean, it reminds, Paul, you and I are talking about like all the movies that we used to go see, and I'm thinking back to all the stuff, like it was random stuff that we'd just go. Yeah. But it was that week's big release.
Yeah, me too. I would go see almost everything that came out.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that was before I had kids, so
like a big release. If there was a big release, I'd usually go see it.
Yeah, I mean, it used to be I was at the movies every week. Like my early days, my 20s, my college days, like I would see everything, and a lot of times I was just walking away disappointed too because I was seeing everything, every single movie. So a lot of times you're just kind of seeing you're investing in a lot of mediocrity, but there were still a lot of choices.
Yeah, I consider it was considered a night out, and that was when I'd see my friends, and we'd all kind of meet up.
Yeah.
And
absolutely.
That was us too.
Yeah, it was the same thing. It was it was a chance for everybody to get together, and we would always go like we'd go get something to eat afterwards and talk about the movie, you know.
Sure.
And those are some great days.
That's too. How Canadian was this? We go for coffee at Tim Hortons afterwards.
Yeah, but I mean, that was always that was always a fun thing, and it's kind of like what we're doing now. It's kind of sitting down having a round table discussion about what we just saw and stuff like that. And it was always
Paul,
fun.
You know what I remember is we went to see the 13th Warrior on opening night.
Oh yeah.
Oh, I'll never forget that. I've got stories about that one.
Where we were like having to hold down a whole row.
Oh God.
Right.
and people were getting pissed. We're trying to hold seats.
Like, you fucking asshole.
And then the movie is about to start, and like 5 or 6 people didn't show up that we were holding seats for. And those people and the people that were waiting just moved right in. They're like, "Fuck you guys, we're taking the seats." And I was like, and that day was the day it changed. I was like, I'm never saving seats for people again. If you're not there when I'm there, I'm not saving you a fucking seat.
Yeah, that happened to me at
people were so irritated, and I was like, oh, fuck this.
That happened to me at the first Spider-Man, and it was brutal.
Oh my God.
Yeah.
But in a way, I kind of understand it because,
yeah, sure.
It's like, dude, that is fucked up. And that's why, like, now, dude, when I go to the movies, I always go for the reserve seating. So I don't even have to think about it, man. I just go in, I sit down right where I'm supposed to sit, where I chose to sit.
I still have to save spots for people because I go to the promo screenings, and usually there's always somebody I've gotten tickets for who's running late, and that really annoys me. So I always have to save spots. But, it's fine. Usually I'm there with, like, my girlfriend or something, so I'm not alone. If I'm alone.
Yeah, if you have somebody that can sit there and hold
I won't save more than 2 extra seats, though. Fuck that. If they want seats, they should get there on time.
Yeah, no fucking way, man. That's just too much. That's insane. It's insane. Anyways, so, you have a few choices in March. You can see Captain Marvel. You can see Dumbo. And you can see Us. And then there's a bunch of other bullshit that really I can't even believe is getting a theatrical release. That shit should be on Netflix. They need to trade.
Yeah, seriously.
That's what needs to happen. But it is what it is. So go see Alita again. That's my recommendation. Or go see Fighting with My Family if you're looking to catch up on something you haven't seen that's quite good. So those are my recommendations.
So have we got any questions before we wrap things up? We're going
Let us see.
2 hours here.
I'm gonna. Oh, looks like we have quite a few. Let's see here. Stand by. Scrolling down. Jesus, we got a lot of questions.
Wow.
I watched King Arthur last night, by the way, and I still think it is. I think it's going to be fucking revered as a cult classic.
I've yet to see it, but I saw the beginning of it on TV the other night, and I don't know, Paul. I disagree with you. I thought it looked pretty bad. I saw like the opening montage of like King Arthur growing up, and it was just a little. Ugh.
I love that scene. It's so fucking cool.
Not crazy about that. So
you go straight to hell. You burn that. All right, this is from Ulysses. Let's see. What movie made pissed off? I think he means what movie made us pissed off to the point that it's unwatchable. Interesting question. Trying to think of a movie that I hated that much. I was like, this is unwatchable.
I mean, Mummy, for sure. The Mummy with Tom Cruise is probably.
That was definitely a fucking slow unravel of a train wreck.
I hated. There were a bunch of movies I hated this year, though. Like I really hated Den of Thieves. Welcome to Marwen really rubbed me the wrong way.
Oh my God!
Watson was terrible. I mean,
that was rough.
Those are all movies that pissed me off that they existed. They were just
Fantastic Four for me.
Pissed off. Oh
yeah!
God.
Oh my God! Fantastic. Yeah. I would say, I think that's a good one. And honestly,
if a Fantastic Four.
If I gave it more thought, I'm sure I could come up with a couple more. But
me too.
I remember watching Fantastic Four and just being like, when will this be over? Another one, actually, I'll say is Aliens vs. Predator Requiem is so god awful. Yeah. It is. It was the last time that I thought maybe I'll just leave the theater. Like I don't even care how this ends.
No redeeming qualities at all.
It was so fucking awful.
Yeah,
and it was and that's another example where they're like, hey, it's R-rated. And I'm like, so like you don't see it, you don't feel it.
Yeah.
So terrible. God, that movie was bad. And then they had like that end credit stinger, which I still don't even know what the fuck it means. I'm just like, and by then I was like, I don't even care. I don't even give a fuck.
No one else did either, clearly.
Please stop making these movies. Cedric Ramos wants to know what is taking so long regarding the Flash.
I think it's complicated for them too when you've got like a version of the character that's already quite popular on TV as well. I think that complicates things a lot. So I think they're trying to figure out how to approach it.
Yeah, I think they're probably trying to think like, is the investment enough to make a Flash movie?
Yeah.
Should we make it? I don't know. I mean, maybe that's part of it. They keep trying, they keep putting it out there, but it's just not. I don't know, man. Like, is the interest, like, can they really pull off a Flash movie? I don't know.
I hope they do though, because I like Ezra Miller on their part, and we'll see.
Yeah, I like Ezra. I mean, I'll go see it.
I feel like they're not going to do it with him though.
Really?
Yeah.
That's interesting. I mean, I just saw a video of him yesterday being very, not just passionate, but very eloquent about the intentions with the character and really displaying a deep-seated knowledge of the whole mythology. And I saw that, and I've liked him in the role, but I'm like, man, I hope he does get his movie, because he seems like he's.
I hope so too. I just feel like it's not going to happen though, because it's been such development hell for a while now.
You know what though, honestly, Chris, I think that Aquaman put a lot of gas in the tank. I think had Aquaman not performed the way it did, maybe it would be less likely. I feel like it's more likely now because of Aquaman.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree with that. And I do know that, the DCU is looking to focus on kind of, these singular solo films rather than like, Birds of Prey aside. They're not trying to, hey, we're getting to the Justice League, let's put them all together, because it just didn't work out for them critically and financially with Justice League. So I think that they're, trying to figure out what's the best route. And obviously with Aquaman, fucking slick. I mean, Aquaman has made more money than any other DC property at this point. That's
Amazing.
Insane. Insane.
Bananas,
I never would have called it. I always thought it would overperform, but I never thought it would overperform like this. So
no, I agree.
So I think that certainly opens the door for the Flash. I think it's all going to come down to who's directing, which we know at least right now. I don't call it till I see set picks at this point, like who's directing. And even then you don't know, because people are getting fired like 3/4 of the way into the film at this point. But we'll see. We'll see what they do, and if they come up with something really great. Let's see. Virgilio wants to know, how many licks does it take to get to the center of the Tootsie Pop? It's 3. What's your favorite? Yeah. What's your favorite horror franchise? And do you prefer slasher, ghost, or psychological horror movies? This is from Fadhil Rogers.
I don't know.
I think Chucky, Child's Play, is probably my favorite horror franchise. I love that fucking killer doll. And I'll go see the new one too, just for and I'll watch the TV show. I'll just put Chucky in and watch
I mean, would you call Alien a horror franchise?
Yeah.
Yeah,
sure.
So I guess Alien would be it for me.
Sure.
Yeah.
I would say the George Romero zombie canon.
Oh, yeah.
Notwithstanding the last 2, but certainly the first 4 I think are exquisite.
Oh, including Land of the Dead?
I really like Land of the Dead. I'm a defender of that movie.
Yeah.
I think it does some very interesting stuff. It does some very, like, knowing what Romero was doing with the previous ones, I like the social commentary that he wove in. That's why the last 2 were so disappointing to me, because it lacked a lot of sophistication that I had appreciated about the earlier ones.
I mean, Dawn of the Dead is fantastic, and I like Day of the Dead as well, and Night of the Living Dead. Yeah, so the original 3 are pretty great.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so Regilio Hernandez, do you see Edge of Tomorrow 2 still happening, or have you heard anything about it? It's one of my most anticipated sequels, and I'm scared we won't see it.
It feels unlikely to happen now, though, that he's doing those 2 Mission Impossible movies back to back.
Yeah.
Top Gun. Like, it seems like his dance card is going to be full for a while, and by the time he could make it, like, I mean, the earliest you'd be able to get it out would be 2022 or 2023.
I think it'd be later than that.
It's been too much time. Yeah, it's been a little.
You're looking at least, if he's going to do it, it would probably have to be his next project after the Mission Impossible movies, and by then you're looking 5 years down the road.
Yeah, so it's a little late now, I think.
And we don't need it,
No, we don't.
We don't.
If it was going to happen, it would have happened already.
Like, I get why people would want to see more. I understand that, but I don't think it's not a thing like, oh man, it needs to happen, because it's really wrapped up pretty well.
Yeah.
It's tied up pretty well, and
plus, by the way, I mean, not a great comparison, but Happy Death Day 2 just died.
Yeah.
And you have to imagine the premise would be something similar there, like, oh no, I'm in the loop again, and
it's funny. I was just gonna say that. It's like you stole it right from my brain, but yeah, that's recycling that. It's like you put these characters through so much, just like dying every day. It's like, hey, we're gonna kill you every day again for a whole fucking movie. It's like, damn, here we go again. Like, I don't ever want to see a Groundhog Day sequel. I fucking love that movie. I think it's a comedy classic. But I would never want to see a sequel.
ambiguous it is about how much time he spent in that thing. Like, somebody said
crazy.
1,000 years? Like, it's just,
I mean, he like learns to play the piano like a professional. He like
Like-
saves people. He does all this stuff in the space of a day and lives his best day. Like, what's next? Like, what's the next? There's a better day than that? Fuck. Come on. So yeah, I don't know. I agree with both of you guys. I don't see it happening really.
What else you got for questions?
From Sean McKee, do you think Disney's reluctance to make Star Wars movies focusing on Jedi and lightsabers has anything to do with possibly upsetting their religious audience?
No.
That's the only reason I can come up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't.
Because if it was, there wouldn't be anything in the new movies. There's enough Jedi in the new films that even called it the Last Jedi. I don't think it has anything to do with it. I think it's just the brain trust, the creative department with those movies. I just think are stacked a little bit thin. They need to need a new brain trust for that.
But I do agree. Where the fuck are the Jedi? Like, please, can we have some lightsabers, please? More lightsabers, more force powers, something.
I think more than anything, it was the desire to differentiate the new films from the prequels, which were just stacked from end to end with Jedi and lightsaber.
Definitely.
But those are the most interesting aspects of the prequels.
Oh, sure. Well, I mean, that's not a critique of. I mean, but I think that's the mentality going in.
Yeah. It's just so boring. I guess for me, it's like, well, that's boring. Like, I don't get into these characters. Like, I just think like the Jedi characters themselves are the most fascinating aspect of Star Wars. Like there's a few cool side characters, like Han Solo, whatever. But I don't know, like this people flying ships and stealing shit. Just it's like okay, whatever. Like the Jedi just seem to be the most interesting aspect, So, and lightsabers are cool.
Mm-hmm.
So I want to see more. Let's see. Let me see. What the fuck? Is this a real question? Never mind. That's not a real question. Ben wants to know what upcoming 2019 release excites you the most.
Once Upon a Time in Hollywood.
I think for me, like the closest, like most recent, I'm very excited for Avengers Endgame. I think most comic nerds and hardcore fans, I want to see how it all comes together. I want to see how it all ties up. I've invested 10 years and fucking 30 something years into comics. So, of course I want to see how it all goes down.
Without question, it's Once Upon a Time in Hollywood for me.
I'm definitely looking forward to that one. Zaki?
Yeah, I mean, I'll echo Endgame and Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. Also Shazam. I'm Captain Marvel. The original Captain Marvel has been one of my favorite characters since I was a kid. So really excited to see him. Yeah, and it's like I have a hard time calling him Shazam because to me he'll always be Captain Marvel.
Yeah.
And then Star Wars. I'm part of the minority, but you know what? It's a new saga movie. I will never not be excited for that.
Oh sure, me too.
I mean, I'm going to see it. I'm just not super excited for it since I was, unlike you two, very disappointed in The Last Jedi. So my investment has diminished, but I'll certainly go see it, of course.
I hope they win you back.
Yeah. I do too. And honestly, my personal feeling is, regardless of, you guys that like the Rian Johnson film, I wish that it was just JJ from start to finish. I would have preferred one consistent vision. I think the whole prospect that Kathleen Kennedy took in terms of like, we're just going to hire them and they're going to make their movie. I'm like, you're making a trilogy, so you're kind of making 3 movies. Maybe not the best idea to just let people run off the fucking map.
I'm actually really excited to see Johnson's new movie this year too, Knives Out.
Yes,
an amazing cast.
Chris has mentioned this every episode. He is very excited for Knives Out.
Yeah,
it does have a killer cast.
Yeah, including
Don Johnson.
Yep.
And isn't Daniel Craig in it?
Yeah. Chris Evans and Michael Shannon and Jamie Lee Curtis and Don Johnson.
Okay, I'm gonna check real quick, and I'm gonna get in trouble here because I was supposed to mention it at the very top for you guys to please go and follow us on The Beard and the Bald, on Instagram. It's Beard and the Bald Podcast. Please go and follow us. We post, questions. We post pictures of Chris naked, and we also do giveaways there. And we are doing a giveaway right now for a 4K Ultra HD copy of Hunter Killer with Gerard Butler. and Gary Oldman, who Zaki Hasan has interviewed before. So you can win that, and that contest is still going on. We will just choose a winner at random. So you can go check that out. And we will be doing more giveaways. I have other stuff to give away too. I have a X-Men trilogy on 4K to give away. I have a couple others. So, we'll keep doing that. Basically, we're bribing you to follow us on Instagram, but also just to have fun giveaways for our fans. So come and play and do that. Zaki, where can folks find you on the interwebs and yell at you?
Yeah, and people definitely do, which is totally fine. My website is, as I mentioned earlier, zakiscorner.com. That's ZAKIS corner. That's also my Twitter. That's also my Instagram. My podcast that I'm lucky enough to co-host every couple weeks with my partner Brian Hall is the Movie Film Podcast, one word, Movie Film. And we just dropped a new commentary track yesterday for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, which celebrates its 30th anniversary this month. I also host the Nostalgia Theater Podcast, which is my interviews with the people behind the artifacts that we love and the famous fans who like them. And the latest episode of that is my conversation with Dana Gould, who's a TV producer. He was on The Simpsons, and he's a huge Planet of the Apes fan. So it's just two massive Planet of the Apes fans just talking about why we love that franchise. And and I would love to hear from you. So please, and again, thank you, Paul and Chris, for inviting me on the show. This was so much fun.
Of course. Love to have my Zaki.
Sorry, what's the name of your Nostalgia
Theater?
Oh,
you've been doing that for a long time.
Yeah, I started it in the early part of 2016, and we were talking about Rambo earlier. One of my earliest episodes was my interview with David Morrell, who wrote the novel First Blood.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. I as I recall, you and I met, and I told you, I was like, oh, in like 2 days, I'm talking to David Morrell. And that's one of my favorite episodes that we did, and I've been very fortunate on that show. I've had Patrick Duffy from Dallas, Mike Farrell from MASH.
Patrick Duffy. Shut up, Patrick Duffy.
That's a good one.
You had Larry Hama too, didn't you?
I've had Larry Hama on the other show, although I want to have him back. And I also had Steve Wozniak, co-founder of Apple.
That's so crazy.
I wanted to. So my joke. Did you get it? Did anybody see the extended version of Walk Hard?
Yes, yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah.
Yeah. Because the extended version of Walk Hard is so much better than the theatrical version.
Yes. And the real Patrick Duffy is in there.
Yeah.
So
you
funny.
changed, really. Shut up, Patrick Duffy.
So anyways, I think that's going to wrap it up for us this week. We thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, Zaki, for coming on. It's always nice to have you back and just to wax movies with you. And of course, Chris, did you get your printer working? I mean, we've kept everybody in suspense.
Kind of.
This whole episode.
Kind of.
And it sounds like it was kind of like we were in the cave of Iron Man, and Iron Man was back there working on his suit the whole time. Is it ready to go? Can we escape now?
You start tinkering on something though, and it just gets hard to let it go, and it's kind of working, I guess. I don't know. Fuck it.
Just throw it out the window.
I know, that's what I feel like doing, to be honest.
Thanks again for joining us. We will see you guys next week.